considered, and a couple language issues, and their interest is in trying to save all the firefighters and certainly keep the North Side Station open. And the budget would include keeping the North Side Fire Station open. The firefighters and us and the city discussed the possibility of utilizing more part-time firefighters to help alleviate the burden on the overtime, which was a major issue for us and still is with the overtime costs for the city. We met today with our insurance broker, Bars Insurance, and we have some little bit of good news on our liability and vehicular insurance. It looks like that the cost is going to stay the same from 2016 to 2017. So in essence, that's a 10% savings for us because we budgeted 10%. And so that's a 10% savings that we now back out of the budget. And that's about $11,000 savings for the city. So Bars Insurance is a local owned business and has been very responsive to the city's needs and shopping our insurance to get the best coverage at the lowest possible price for the city and the residents. One of the things we're very pleased with is our initiative to expand our demolitions and our paving. Based on what we have now, we're looking at a paving program for 2017 in excess of $400,000. And we're looking at a demolition program of approximately 14 properties. So I think this is probably the most aggressive demolition and paving program the city has embarked on for quite some time. And this is, and PennDOT has several projects that are listed for the city over the next couple of years. So this kind of in partnership with PennDOT, there's going to be a lot of paving, a lot of infrastructure improvements for the city. So we believe that we forged a nice partnership with PennDOT moving forward based on some of the work we did together and some of the commitments we made. So overall, I'm very pleased with the progress on the infrastructure improvements for the city. Obviously, we're still undertaking the water and sewer improvements. So overall, the city is moving in the right direction, I believe, as it's related to reinvesting in the infrastructure and the equipment for the city. So overall, we're very pleased to present a workable budget for 2017 with no tax increase. As I said, we're committed, council's committed to, we believe the road to economic prosperity does not lie in tax increases or property taxes. Obviously, we're going to have to address that at some point in the future, whether we're going to increase taxes or look at taxes. Because as I said numerous times, we're going to have to jumpstart the revenues in some fashion. And obviously the increase in revenues is directly tied to any property tax increase. But for now, I think we can get through 2017 with no property tax increase. Budget's tight. The department heads have done an excellent job in managing their budgets. And overall, the main increase from last year to 2017 is going to be, as it always is, in personnel costs. And between the wage increases, which are not all that bad, are 2 to 2.5%, which is probably a little bit less than what the inflation rate is. And the workers' comp is always hard. And then the health insurance, we had an 8.5% increase in health insurance this year as compared to 37% last year. But again, when you have 80 employees, an 8.5% increase is $100,000. So it's directly tied to the amount of employees we have. So, but we only had an 8.5% increase. So moving with this new outfit, Municipal Benefit Services, is kind of taking the peaks and valleys out of this insurance. It was killing us. Whether we can maintain 8.5%, a lot of it has to do with the demographics, the age group, and the usage of the plan. It's directly tied to that. And when you have a high usage period, it's going to reflect directly in your premiums overall. So we're presenting a balanced budget, and like I said before, Councilman Cost edification, the budget includes the layoff of one firefighter. However, we had a very productive meeting with the firefighters on Tuesday and for negotiations, and I think there's some movement that could be made there. They're committed to keeping all firefighters on duty, and there's some moving parts that we'll still explore, but for now, the balanced budget includes the layoff of one fireman. Again, this is only our first reading. We'll have a second and third reading. Just based on the insurance numbers alone, I feel there'll be some adjustments between the first and second reading. I can pretty much verify that. So based on what I've laid out, we're projecting revenues, utility refuse service at $7,259,653. We're proposing general control at $7,294,274. Parking revenue, $74,525. Liquid fuels, $467,050. Capital reserve, $2,358,713. Community development, $441,476. Oil City Industrial Park, $365,200. Arts Council, $151,600, for a total revenue projection of $18,412,491. One of the things under liquid fuels we're very proud of is that we've taken away a lot of things that were draining liquid fuels. And now liquid fuels, the main things are only being charged as paving, salt, and it's another component, Michelle, paving, salt.
Equipment, that money
Equipment.
we're building for.
Yeah, we're very pleased that under the liquid fuels budget, you're allowed a 25% allocation towards equipment. So we now have over $100,000 in the liquid fuels account to purchase equipment, and it'll help alleviate in other areas, and that's our goal, to bankroll 25% per year to start building up an equipment account. And there's a couple pieces of equipment we'll probably look at next year for Public Works. On the expenditure side, under utility refuse services, a balanced amount of $7,259,653. Under general control, $7,294,274. Under parking revenue, $74,525. Under liquid fuels, $467,050. Capital reserve, $2,358,713. Under community development, $441,476. Oil City Industrial Park, $365,200. Arts Council, $151,600, for a total expenditure of $18,412,491. Now, under capital reserve, when you see the amount above under revenues of $2,358,713, that includes the general fund, includes water and sewer. And when you look at it, it's pretty healthy. Unfortunately, the general fund amount, which is the key here, is less than $400,000. So obviously, it's our goal to, as I had said multiple times before, we should have at least, based on a $7 million general fund, we should have at least $1 million to do $1.5 million in reserves. This is a 10%, 10 to 15% figure you should have as part of your general fund control. We have $400,000, so we have a long way to go as far as bankrolling our general fund reserve. And you know, when you're only coming into the new year with $65,000 surplus, you're not going to be bankrolling much money under the general reserve. So we're hoping that with the conservative projections we have and some other revenue sources we may be looking at, hopefully the goal is that we'll try to get that reserve up as close as we can. Obviously, the issue with the industrial park sale and those properties are going to lend itself to getting some more money, but we'll set that up in a separate account. They're like a rainy day fund. So overall, the You know, like I said, I can't believe a year has gone by that we're laying out a second budget already, incredible. And the budget is difficult, and it's going to continue to be difficult in the city. And the staff and I and council will work as hard as we can to make sure that it is a workable budget. It's a realistic budget. That's the thing. It's a realistic budget based on realistic projections. I'm a little concerned about the property tax projection of 2.2 million. That, if anything, that would be a concern. It may be a little aggressive based on the what we have thus far. Whether we're going to hit 2 million too, I'm not sure. So that may be something we'll potentially look at as we get closer to the second and third reading. So other than that, we're pretty confident of the revenues and expenditures, and I would ask council to consider that for the first reading as we open up the council agenda here.
Your concern on the $2.2 million lies in delinquencies or?
I think it's just a little, yes, I think it's a little aggressive. You know, we had 2.2 million for 2016. It's going to be highly unlikely we're going to hit that 2.2 million. We still have, you know, a month and a half to go in the collection season, but typically the most of the collections occur now. We'll get an influx in the next 6 weeks. Whether we get 2.2, I don't know. So that may be something we have to adjust downward a little bit as we see the revenues coming in. So.
Okay, council will now hear from those citizens who wish to comment on the budget that we're proposing. Would you like to step up and ask any questions? None being heard, there will be no further comments. The chair declares the public hearing adjourned. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jenna, will you do roll call?
Mr. Massey? Present. Mr. Pond? Mr. Dunham?
Yes.
Mr. Gustafson? Here.
Here. We'll do the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of November 3rd, 2016.
Second.
Any discussion? None being, roll call, Jen?
Mr. Massey?
Yes.
Mr. Pond?
Yes.
Mr. Dunham?
Yes.
Mr. Gustafson?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes. Revision of the agenda?
Just the, think of reshuffling of the exec session and comments about the library, or excuse me, the ambulance.
Okay. We get a motion to approve that revision.
Motion. Second.
Roll call, Jenna?
Mr. Massey?
Yes.
Mr. Pond?
Yes.
Mr. Dunham?
Yes.
Mr. Gustafson?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes. City manager reports.
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, the folks visiting City Hall, there's been some signs. We've been talking about an elevator project for quite some time. So on December the 5th, it looks like the elevator project, the rehabilitation is going to start. It's probably going to be at least a 2 to 3 week process, so we anticipate the elevator is going to be out of service at City Hall from December the 5th through the Christmas holiday. Now, this is going to be an expensive undertaking for the city, but since we have a 4-story building and tenants on the 2nd or 4th floor, having an operative elevator is critical for us. So it'll be something everybody will be hoping up the steps for 2 to 3 weeks until the elevator project's finished. We're pleased to announce, it was in the paper today, that the Central Avenue grant, the liquid fuels grant that we applied through Venango County has been approved. So we'll be partnering with Cranberry Township to do a Central Avenue paving project in 2017, and we'll be doing a water project, water line replacement project prior to the paving. So this will be a good project for the city in partnership with Cranberry. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Under current business, vacate of East 3rd Alley. Mr. Strickland.
Yes. For those of you fortunate enough not to know me, my name is Dave Strickland. I'm an architect from Oil City. I've lived here practically all my life. And I'm here to introduce today a project envisioned by the Church of the Nazarene. On Friday, November 11th of this month, I wrote a letter to Mark Schroyer, which states, I'll just read this quickly for you. Thank you for meeting with the Reverend Scott King and myself last Friday at City Hall. On behalf of the Church of the Nazarene, we request that the city give thought to the notion to vacate a portion of East 3rd Alley between Imperial Street and Liberty Street. We also request to be placed on the agenda for your next council meeting on Thursday, November 17th, 2016, during which time the church and myself may present additional information in this regard. So tonight, or this evening, it's my pleasure to introduce you to the beginning of a long-term, multi-phase vision of the Old City Church of the Nazarene. I'm going to just say a couple architect kind of words about the initial phase of this project, and then allow the Reverend Scott King to share his church's vision and the reasons why this project is very important and necessary. So if I could, I've distributed maps to everybody with the red lettering on it. So the project areas, if you're not familiar with the Church of the Nazarene, is on the south side adjoining East 2nd Street, and this is the block upon which it rests. The Church of the Nazarene holds about 60% of the total property on that block. The remaining 4 parcels are residential. Across the street is the Giant Eagle, and just down the road a little bit is the Rite Aid, and then Thorne's Grocery. It's bounded by East 2nd Street. It's bounded by East 3rd Street. It's also bounded by Imperial Street and by Liberty Street. There's an alleyway, and that's the part in question, which runs between the front half of that block and the rear half of that block, and that is East 3rd Alley. And it's the church's desire, which began as a smaller project, to rectify some water problems and having a weather-free, a weather-protected entrance. And we looked at several schemes to do that, but as we talked about what we're doing, it seemed to snowball into a larger project which would serve their needs better. So without further ado, Scott will tell you about everything else.
Mr. Stewart, did you say you own 60% of the property?
The church owns roughly 60% of that property.
Of the frontage?
Yeah, actually, it's the same in the front and the back. They own 60%, over half of the front and over half the back, but there's a division with West 3rd Alley in between.
Back half being the parking lot.
Yes, it is. It's a parking lot here. Actually, there's residents, 4 resident parcels in addition to the church.
Thank you for your time. As I said, this project started off as a consideration of some of the water flow issues that we have, parking lot and roofing. But as we begin to discuss and look at that alleyway, as you walk out the back door of the church, which is the access to our handicap as well as Senior Dawson, probably 90% of our congregation enters through the back door. As you walk out the back door, you literally have less than a foot until you're onto the alley. It initially has become a major concern that even last night, as I was going to walk across the street with my daughter in a wheelchair, a car came around the corner and just flew down that road. It's a hazard not only to church members, but we have a large number of community kids that will come out and play in our parking lot, roller skate, bike. And regularly, I'm a paramedic also, my heart just flutters every time I see these kids because there's a car that flies by and it's become a very dangerous situation. This whole thing came, we were discussing options of putting speed bumps, any sort of a thing to put into place, and that's one piece of the concern. Chief Winters and I have been talking a little bit about some of the drug activity that is going on in neighboring houses. I have been personally threatened by some of the clients who are parking in our church parking lot and walking over doing transactions. So our dream, I'm new to this area. I've only been here since December last year. As you can tell probably from my accent, I'm a Southern boy, so forgive me, the snow stuff I'm working on. But some of the vision that we have is that we're not going to be a church that's going to hide behind our walls anymore. We want to be involved in the community. We want to be an impact in the community. I have plans here that one of our first stages is we have 20 to 30 kids that are picked up by the bus from the Oil City schools right in our back parking lot, and they sit out there in the rain and snow. So we propose with the planning and everything of building a bus barn out there so we can have a shelter for these kids. And plus, so that's one stage of it. My goal is it going to happen overnight? Probably not, but my goal will one day to own those houses on that block so that we can improve that area and maybe build a multi-purpose gymnasium, providing a place for kids to play and entertain and have activities. So in a way, this is really step one of making all this take place. My goal of taking, if you guys vacate, we would allow for the easement for all utilities and everything would continue. It's not to build over the property or on the property. I would like to build a canopy to where, you know what, we have some of our senior adults who are handicapped that can get in without getting drenched. So, that's one step of it, but also I would like to cut that alley off with a barricade or a fence. It sounds funny, but we do have a large number of uses, people coming in, parking in our parking lot, walking over, and it's a regular thing. I have video on my phone right now of this stuff going on. That's how prevalent it is. It's not like it's hiding anymore. So we put a fence up, blocking off that. So we're going to make if they want to buy drugs and park in my lot, they have to walk a block. So we make them a little healthier. I don't know. But the reality is as step one of a plan, we own, like I said, both sides of the alley, 60% of both sides. I'm not sure exact numbers, but I'm trusting him to have that for me. But this is just one stage, and we will take care of the maintaining of that property. We'll take care of what needs to be taken care of when it comes to snow removal and things of that nature. But our vision is to have an area, first of all, safe for the kids to play. The kids love coming in our parking lot. They'll run up our ramp and run down our ramp, but unfortunately, as soon as you hit the bottom of the ramp, you're in the road. And I don't want to see a kid get hit in my parking lot. I don't want to see him get hit in the alleyway. So those are a lot of the considerations that we're looking at. We're wanting to take in safety for our kids in the area and community, safety for my members. We do have a lot of senior adults in our church. Also blocking off where we can eliminate some of the drug activity that's going on. My wife is a secretary to church, and I'll be very honest, she carries because she feels at risk at times with some of the people. She's been threatened herself. So, that's where we are.
Did you talk to the private property owners at the end of the alley to see whether they're on board with this?
We have reached out to them. They have not contacted or returned any information to us, so we are still in the process. That alley only has 2 parking garages on the alley, and that's on I'd say the south side of the alley. We would not block that off. We'd still allow them access from, not Imperial, but the other street over Liberty. They still have full access to that. We'd assist them in any way we can to make sure they're not a convenience in it. We're also in discussions with one of those homeowners of actually trying to purchase their property.
Well, what's the, I think it's my understanding that if a property owner owns 51%, then they can push this even if the other property owners?
We have to have, under our law, we have to have a petition submitted to council by all the property owners. So not only the church, but all the other residential property owners.
All those properties are
Sign a
rentals, so we're,
petition, And if you need any guidance on what the petition should look like, can you let us know? We can get that to you.
okay.
But you're gonna have to have them all on board.
I would think they would have to be publicly notified, you know, either by posting or formally by mail or something, but
They have to petition us. We can't go to that.
so that would be on.
Right.
What happens if some of the property owners do not get on board with this and the church still owns 60%? Can they still drive it then?
I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure on that. I'll look at the law again, but my recollection, and since the last time we did it, we had all the property owners on board. They all signed the petition, so it was a no-brainer. Here, I'm not sure. I think there is a provision that provides the city can vacate that alleyway if it's in the public interest. So we can do that on our own. But if a property owner wanted to pursue it, I think all the property owners have to be on board in one petition. But if we make findings at a public hearing that it's in the public interest to vacate that alley, then I'm sure the city can do it as well. But I'll double check on that.
I've always had a desire for this being a commercial district down there. And it seems to be the busiest part of town at times, that there were ways eventually in the future to create larger building lots down there. And this would certainly do that, but I can see that it'd be difficult to just dead end that alley. I would think that would be the difficult part there. So you're only asking, obviously you can't really ask on behalf of the other residents, you know, to vacate their portion of it.
Well, and that's where I guess the request would be if we can do a partial vacating of it. I know the concern would be blocking it off, but I think also, speaking with other people in the community on other sides of the road, there are a lot of, we have big rigs that come flying through our parking lot and tearing our parking lot. I got yelled at by one of the truck drivers. I told him, please don't turn around our parking lot. And you know, these are some of the concerns that we have, and you know, I appreciate you need a place to turn around, but my blacktop parking lot's probably not the best for their fully loaded truck. It tears it up, and we spend thousands of dollars a year repairing what they're using. So, you know, we're not at all trying to be separate from the community. We're trying to actually improve the community. I have drawings here of even the bus barn that we're building for our kids in the community. I'll go ahead and give you guys a copy if you'd like to look at it. When I mentioned a bus barn, it's not so much of a small little shack. We're making a nice little place, guarded in, it's visible on all sides. That way there won't be any concerns of if anyone gets in there, we can see. It's going to be transparent, so you'll be able to see through it. We're using different materials that way from top to bottom. The only thing we're going to have is a beam running across supporting it, and that's about it. And we understand there's potential vandalism, but that's fine. We'll take care of that as it arises. So this is a multi-step process, and I also mentioned we don't want to be a church hidden behind our walls anymore. We want to actually come out and try to make a difference in our community.
Well, this is just discussion tonight, so I guess there's more work to be done.
Yeah.
We would have to take into consideration the other owners of the property on that end and their feelings on that.
Should take pending further investigation.
I don't think we can really make a decision.
We will continue to try to reach out to the homeowners. I do know one of them, the greenhouse on the corner. The owner is a disabled woman in a nursing home. We can't seem to find any information to reach out to families, so that is one hurdle we're trying to work on also.
I just want to comment, I think I see 5 properties there, not 4. I don't know if their front property has a matter to say or not. I don't know what the number, who owns what, but I see 5 separate properties.
There's one weird
I don't know
corner one,
if the
I'm
one
not
on
sure.
2nd Street matters to you or not in your request.
Well, I guess the only thing we try to do out of courtesy would be just for the back entrance. Right now, there's no garages on the houses on 2nd Street. There's no garage or anything in the back, and honestly, those are the 2 houses that we're the utmost concerned about, because that's where most of the action is.
Charlie, what were your findings on any utilities through there, please?
There's 3 catch basins on the alley.
Two of them are across the alley in their parking lot. And the other one is right next to their back door, which is about 30 feet from Imperial Street, and everything drains to Imperial.
So there's no utility lines running through the alley at all? Okay, very good, thank you.
Okay, so we'll have to table this to another day, so I need to have to motion to.
Make a motion that we table this and encourage you to do your due diligence on the other end with the other residents and so forth, but we'd be willing to hear it further at that point.
Thank you again for your time.
Yes, second. Jenna, roll call.
Mr. Massey?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Dunham?
Yes.
Mr. Gustafson?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes. Next, we have Arts Council bylaws update.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm almost sorry, or in fact, I will apologize for coming in the middle of the budget to do this. However, we finally got the bylaws in a position, and the Arts Council group has passed them, and we need to have them brought before you. They're in your package. You've had a chance to look at them, so I'm certainly not going to go into them in detail. We have worked on them in the sense that we changed the name because we went back to Oil City Arts Council in order to make it easier. I mean, that's what the general usage was, and it really gets complicated sometimes with the other name. We've, just to point out, we reduced the number of board members because it wasn't working and it wasn't practical, and we split up the secretarial jobs, so we now have two, both corresponding and recording secretary. And we've outlined our committees a little better so that they reflect what we're doing and what we feel that. So other than that, mostly of it just a little housekeeping deal. So we would appreciate that if you're willing, that you will approve these new bylaws. And I'm not sure what the city themselves has to do as far as an ordinance or a resolution to bring their records up to date to go with this, but I'll leave that up to Mr. Varsik. I decided that I wasn't going to try to write that all myself. And so anyways, with that in mind, if anybody has any questions regarding this, if not, I would appreciate it if you'd approve them and we can move along.
Thank you, Bart. Anybody have a discussion?
I think we can trust the work that they've put in. You know, they know their organization better than I do. I'll make a motion that we approve the changes to the bylaws of the Oil City Arts Council.
Second that.
Any other discussion? None being, roll call, Jen?
Mr. Massey?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Dunham?
Yes.
Mr. Gustafson?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes. Next, we have arts revitalization discussion. Mr. Burrows?
I'll stay here because I think
Yes,
I missed
please.
anything.
Yeah, in case I miss it, it's going to be a good idea. And anyway, I'd like to thank everybody, Mr. Mayor, City Manager, Council people, for your support that you've given the Oil City Arts Councils through the years. We've been at it over 20 years now, and we're just happy about everything that comes into the town here that we're able to provide citizens with. The programs that we have, you know, and I give everybody a little pamphlet that we put out every year, include concerts all year, round. The galleries that we have, the Transit Fine Arts Gallery, as well as the Graffiti Gallery, and the new pottery studio that we just opened in the last year. I also gave you a handout of what from the American for the Arts, who did a survey indicating the creative industries that are found just in Venango, PA. And the thing I took away from this is that there are over 200 people in Venango County that are employed through the arts-related businesses. And you wouldn't think that when you look at it that way, but if you look at the map that was there, you can see the hub is right here in Old City, which is fantastic. And we want to continue to do that, okay? The reason I'm here, though, is about the Arts Revitalization Relocation Program. And we've been having it for the past 10 years. It has been proven to be an asset, and it's an important component of us and the city coffers as well. The past 10 years brought over 40 families to Oil City in the form of art-based businesses, plus real estate, both commercial and residential. We established ourselves as the art hub in Oil City, receiving inquiries from people across the country wanting to learn about the Artist Relocation Program. We understand that, that there are budget difficulties at this point that we're facing, but to not continue this program would hurt the growth and benefits that we're already seeing. We sort of planted the tree, and now it's maturing. We need your continued support for this. I'd like to thank everybody for your time and service that you do for the residents of Oil City. And if I missed anything, Bart will let me know.
Mostly, I guess, if anybody on council has any questions. Yes.
Keep up the good work.
Well, the only thing I want to emphasize is we really are, there are other groups out there doing different things to grow Oil City, to retain jobs, to do whatever. But this is the only group that's actually proven to be bringing people into Oil City right now. And it's growing. What was 1 or 2 one year has grown to 4 or 5. And it's just getting to the point, we all know that you would like us to be self-sustaining. And that is the deal. But now we still need that support for another few years to get this program really working, because now we know people that are moving here that are not part of the program. They're not coming in because we're giving them support. They're coming in because they heard somebody else came here and it was a good environment and they're coming on their own. So that's a sign of growth.
But not only that, they're also spending their money here in Oil City, small businesses. I had someone tell me the other day that somebody spent $10,000 just on furniture alone coming into here. So it's good for business as well, And like I say, with these facts that we have here, it surprised me as well as how many people are employed through the arts in Venango County, and being that shows us that we're the hub of it, and that's great. And so that tells me the program's working, and we don't want to stop it because it's just taken off now. And we'd like to continue to do it that way. So
You're saying it's getting close to sustainability then?
Yes.
Yeah.
We would hope that it is getting close, but the point is we do know there is growth, and growth on its own. So we need to, it's too soon to pull the plug. Thank you very much for your time.
thank you.
Thank you for coming.
I will add something. I don't know that I'm accurate in saying this, but it would appear to me that this is a program that's actually expanding our tax base.
Well, you're losing people.
No, it's expanding, it's giving more people, like more people are coming, like it's actually like funny, like everything's always got to be about, gotta crunch the numbers at some point. And the numbers are crunched that, I don't know. It looks like, it pays for itself.
I'd say it's more about sustaining the tax base. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know that anybody's constructed a new building or anything that way, but
people
occupying homes. that
Yeah,
are
but that's 40
there.
homes. If we didn't have that, that's 40 more empty houses in Old City.
Possibly. Yeah.
Possibly we could be demoing them too.
Yeah.
And we're getting more inquiries every year. So, it's really building up. And through, word of mouth from other artists that have been here, 2 artists, friends of theirs, they're coming into town. Now, it's not shown here, but it is shown on the tax base.
Every one of our budget meetings we don't have a growing tax base. Our tax base is dying. This would seem to stop the hemorrhage, I suppose. I'm not sure what
It's a part
would be the
part.
I don't know what the language would be used to say, like, this is a positive. Really good.
Yeah.
I'm pleased to hear that people are coming on their own, though, that we're not, it's not only completely recruitment, but people are making a choice just because.
We know that we
it's
get a
occurred,
little
so.
more inquiries when there is the advertising money to advertise, you know, statewide, whatever. But we are getting people that are inquiring on their own just because they've come on or somebody has said they're doing a good thing here. And people have actually moved here that we're finding out after the fact that they're here and they are part of the art group, so.
I met
It's
a
working.
woman recently who moved into a home on West 2nd over by Moran, and I'm not sure if it was so much arts related for her, but she did a Google search for livable small communities, and she moved out of New York State near New York City
Yes.
to get a more peaceful way of life, and I found that encouraging. She said Oil City kept popping to the top of those search engines that she was looking at.
Somebody said we're a good place to live. We were on somebody's list here.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure the arts program has helped put Oil City on that list.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Yep, thank you both.
You're up.
Next, we have a request from the Oil City Arts Council regarding a new board member.
Oh, that's self-explanatory. We have presented a letter to have Joanne put on the board of directors because she is a big asset to us and we want it official so we can put her to work.
Okay.
Do you know this woman?
Okay, so we need a motion for putting a new board director on the Arts Council, Joanne Wheeler.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? None being, roll call?
Mr. Massey?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mr. Menominee?
Yes.
Mr. Gustafson?
Yes.
Mr. Booth?
Yes. Next, we have an update on the Center Street Bridge. Kathy Bailey?
Good evening. At a previous council meeting, a discussion came up about concerns about electric costs, the cost of electric usage associated with some of the new revitalization projects that the Main Street program has done and even other groups, specifically the new town square, the Center Street Bridge illumination, and we'd also like to make an offer to help with another project. I brought this up to Take Pride in Oil City, and I'm very pleased to simply be the messenger of this. Take Pride in Oil City has voted to make a contribution to the city of Oil City in the amount of $1,500, and that is at least for 1 year toward electric costs, the cost of the electric bill. So you can apply that however you like. It is our full intention to keep applying for funds every year to continue a donation on a yearly basis. But if I may approach and present a letter. This is a letter from Betsy Kellner. The mayor's is on top, and I've got copies for all the council members here. But that's simply a letter stating that that donation will be forthcoming. I was hoping to actually be able to present you with a check today. That check will be coming next week under separate cover, so it will just be sent directly to City Hall. But what this will include is costs from the Center Street Bridge illumination, the town square, and also it's a contribution toward any electrical costs associated with this outside fountain also. So that's through Take Pride in Oil City.
Thank you.
We hope that brightens your day a little bit.
Thank you, Kathy, for your line.
Like I said, I'm happy to be the messenger.
While you're standing there, we have a Main Street program facade grant request.
Yes. We have a grant request to present from Leon and Kathy Kalinsky. This is for their building at 207 Center Street. This is actually not one of the storefront entrances. There are two entrances on both, one on Center Street and one on Sycamore Street. But the project that we're talking about right now is masonry repairs on the east wall, which is the wall that I suppose would be facing up the hill towards St. Joseph Steeples, if you will. If you come down the hill, you can see visible cracks in the wall. There are diagonal cracks that are visible from both the Sycamore Street, the street itself or the sidewalk, and also from Center Street. So it's on both sides of that same wall. What they will be doing is doing masonry repair, repointing and repairing the stress fracture areas, replacing some damaged brick. And there's also, from a previous repair job, there's very visible gray mortar against the red brick. And so what they'll be doing is replacing that gray mortar with mortar that's dyed to match the red brick, so it will blend in. It's a cosmetic repair, but it's also in the interest of the building. There is some water coming into the building as a result of all the cracks, and so this will help secure the building and stabilize it for the future. They've been very good about maintaining and keeping their property up, and so we'd like to help out with this project also. The project is estimated at $3,500, and the grant request is for 50% of that, which is $1,750. So we ask for your approval.
Okay. Motion to approve the Main Street grant for $1,750.
Second.
Any other discussion? Roll call, Jen?
Mr. Massey?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Gustafson?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have vouchers.
To the mayor and members of city council, general fund, $251,183.55. Water and sewer account, $287,262.33. Capital reserve, $74,878.87. Liquid fuels, $15,299.80. Arts council, $971.58. Parking revenue account, $44,996.46. Utility deposit escrow, $7,335.54. Water and sewer projects, $215,902.52. Industrial park, $71,582.09. Main Street, $27,018.43. I have audited the foregoing checks and find them to be correct. Robert M. Cross, City Controller, November 10th, 2016.
Thank you, Jenna. Any motion for the vouchers?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just one simple thing. The parking revenue account, you had read off $44,996.46 on our vouchers. It's $45,846.46.
Okay, I've got 44,996.
Okay.
So I don't know what.
I don't think there's anything we can do. I mean, the controller just mistyped and that was it.
Yeah.
I'm just stating for clarity.
Okay. Roll call, Jenna?
Mr. Massey?
Yes.
Mr. Pond?
Yes.
Mr. Dunham?
Yes.
Mr. Gustafson?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes. Next, we have permission to bid James Nellis Memorial Swimming Pool Bathhouse Interior Improvements.
Hello. I believe you have a memorandum with some details. Basically, we are getting ready to bid out the second part of the pool bathhouse renovation project, which is the interior improvements and ADA accessibility issues. The draft documents have been sent to Harrisburg. We have to have DCNR approval before we can release that bid. If we hear back from them in a reasonable period of time, I expect to bid this by the end of this month. I'm asking with your permission to release this bid. This project is all funded with grant and donation funds. There's no city money.
Need a motion for permission to bid for the bathhouse interior improvements?
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Massey?
Yes.
Mr. Pond?
Yes.
Mr. Dunham?
Yes.
Mr. Gustafson?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
I have one question though about the pool building, the roofing project underway.
There was some give and take between the city and the roofer, but I believe it's on track to get started.
Yeah, these materials have been ordered, and as soon as they're here, they'll be down
According to him, it should only take 1 to 2 weeks to actually do the project. So, just want to pray for some continued good weather.
Thank you.
What's the weather for?
Michelle, would you come up, give a brief budget overview or quarterly report, please?
Thank you, Michelle.
Here's sheet 75 for the other quarters. As you can see, this year we're pretty much in line with where we've been in the past years for the general fund, and with the garbage, recycling, water, and sewer are all right about where they've been over the other 3-year history here. Some things that we have done in the third quarter: we made our final workers' comp payment for 2016. We made a deposit on the upgrades that are going to be done to the elevator. We did buy new vests for the police officers. We restocked some meters in the water department that Kevin needs for to go out to do that. We have repaired a water pump in one of the pump stations. We did purchase a new Ford F-150 for Kevin. His vehicle was not going to pass inspection and was going to be out of service. We did pay off a lease several years early, a backhoe that is used in the water department. That was not going to be paid off till 2018. And we also paid off 1 year early the lease that we had for the street sweeper and the 2 TerraStar trucks in Public Works. So those leases have all been paid off.
Good job.
In the third quarter. So. Any questions?
I like that approach, pay them off early. Yeah, I do.
And then we were able to take those items out of the 2017 budget too, which was a help going forward.
Thank you for your hard work.
You're welcome.
Okay, now we have resolution ordinance. We have Council Bill 2136, making appropriations for municipal purpose for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2017 and ending December 31st, 2017.
Be it ordained and enacted by the Council of the City of Oil City, Pennsylvania, and it is hereby ordained and enacted by authority of the same. Section 1, that the monies received from taxes and all other sources of revenue for municipal purposes for the City of Oil City, Pennsylvania, for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2017, shall be and hereby are appropriated as follows. 2017 City of Oil City funds. Revenues: utility refuse services, $7,259,653. General control, $7,294,274. Parking revenue, $74,525. Liquid fuels, $467,050. Capital reserve, $2,358,713. Community development, $441,476. Oil City Industrial Park, $365,200. Arts Council, $151,600, for a total of $18,412,491. Expenditures: utility refuse services, $7,259,653. General control, $7,294,274. Parking revenue, $74,525. Liquid fuels, $467,050. Capital reserve, $2,358,713. Community development, $441,476. Oil City Industrial Park, $365,200. Arts Council, $151,600, for a total of $18,412,491. attested to by Mark G. Schroyer, City Clerk, William P. Moon Jr., Mayor, approved by.
Thank you, Jen. Need a motion for Council Bill 2136.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? None being, roll call, Jen?
Mr. Massey?
Yes.
Mr. Pond?
Yes.
Mr. Dunham?
Yes.
Mr. Gustafson?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Excuse me, Mayor, as part of the budget deliberations, we're going to have to address this streetlight issue.
We didn't
I
do
think I
a,
sent some information over.
we didn't do a test pattern.
No, but I don't think that the test pattern is going to be necessary. I think we have to decide if we're going to commit to the LED program or stand pat with the high-pressure sodium lights. And I think we need to have a discussion and decide which way we're moving ahead, because it's going to have an effect on the budget. For instance, the LED lights, if we go with a 90-watt bulb, the LED lights are going to cost us a 33% increase for 2017, which pretty much negates the savings that we realize by standing pat. If we stand pat with the high-pressure sodium lights, then we're going to see a 25% increase, which is what we have in the budget. So if we go to the LED lights, we're going to see an 8% increase in costs to go to the LED lights, but obviously the projected trade-off is less electricity use. So the Penelec representative has come into my office on a couple occasions, and apparently there's something brewing with this new tariff that if we don't act before this new tariff goes into effect, which is projected to be after the first of the year, then if we decide to go to the LED lights, we're going to have to pay an additional installation charge, which could be prohibitive, that we do not have to pay now. So the issue is that because we're cash strapped right now, that by going to the LED program, we're going to pay an additional 8% on the lights. And the problem is that, so that 8%, you try to offset that, because you're talking 8%, 8%, 8%, then you have to try to determine what the electricity costs are going to be to offset that 8%. And based on the, I think I sent you that information from the DEP guy, and I think he's projecting like a 5 to 10% savings by going with the LED program. So we have to decide, and I'll put this on the agenda for the first meeting in December for discussion, and we'll get a little bit more information, but that's going to have a direct impact on the budget depending on which way we go. So.
Thank you, Mark. Next, we have a first reading, let's see, Council Bill 2137, imposing certain taxes and fees for general revenue purposes for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2017.
Be it ordained and enacted by the City of Royal City and Council assembled, and it is hereby ordained and enacted by authority of the same. Section 1. The following taxes and fees are hereby reimposed for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2017, under the Local Tax Enabling Act, Act 511, at the rates delineated below. Per capita, $10. Earned income tax, 1%. Realty transfer tax, 1%. Local services tax, $52. Section 2, the following taxes and fees are hereby reimposed for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2017, at the rates delineated below. Residence tax, $5. Business license fee, $100 on gross receipts exceeding $100,000. $50 on gross receipts between $5,000 and $100,000. $25 on gross receipts less than $5,000 or new businesses. Section 3. All the sections of the article contained in Chapter 166 on taxation relating to the above noted taxes and fees are hereby amended to reflect the term and rates identified above. Section 4. All ordinances or parts of ordinances inconsistent herewith shall be repealed. Section 5. This ordinance shall become effective at the earliest date permitted by law. Attested to by Mark G. Schroyer, City Clerk, approved by William P. Moon Jr., Mayor.
And we need a motion for Council Bill 2137.
Make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
These rates all remain the same as the previous year.
That's correct. No changes.
Jenna, roll call?
Mr. Massey?
Yes.
Mr. Poff?
Yes.
Mr. Dunham?
Yes.
Mr. Gustafson?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes. Next, we have Council Bill 2138, levying taxes for municipal purposes for the fiscal year January 1, 2017, ending December 31st, 2017. First reading.
Be it ordained and enacted by the City of Oil City and Council assembled, and it is hereby ordained and enacted by authority of the same. Section 1, that the following taxes are hereby levied for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2017, and ending December 31st, 2017. A, for general revenue fund purposes, a tax of 8.25 mils upon each $1, being $8.25 upon each $1,000 of assessed valuation of all property taxable for city purposes. B, for expenses incurred in the operation of the city's parks, playgrounds, and recreation areas, a tax of 2.16 mils upon each $1, being $2.16 upon each $1,000 of assessed valuation of all property taxable for city purposes. C, for expenses incurred in the operation of the city's public library, a tax of 1.32 mils upon each $1, being $1.32 upon each $1,000 of assessed valuation of all property taxable for city purposes. D, for expenses incurred to pay interest and principal on indebtedness incurred pursuant to the Local Government Debt Act, a tax of 0.18 mils upon each $1, being 18 cents upon each $1,000 of assessed valuation on all property taxable for city purposes. The total tax levied hereby being 11 92/100 mils upon each $1, being $11.92 upon each $1,000 of assessed valuation of all property taxable for city purposes. Attested to by Dr. T. Schroeder, City Clerk, and approved by William P. Young, Jr., Mayor.
I need a motion on Council Bill 2138.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
Again, same millage as last year.
That's correct.
Janet, roll call?
Mr. Massey?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mr. Bud?
Yes.
Mr. Gustafson?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes. Next, we have Council Bill 2139, amending Article 1, Chapter 180-7, establishing a revised schedule of rates for water furnished and provided within or outside of the city. Will you please roll the read?
Be it ordained and enacted by the City of Oil City and Council assembled, and it is hereby ordained and enacted by authority of the same. Section 1, that Article 1, Chapter 180-7 of the Code of the City of Oil City, Pennsylvania, being the same, is hereby amended to read as follows. 180-7, Schedule of Rates. A, each person, partnership, or corporation owning property within or outside of the City of Oil City, to which water shall be furnished by the city, shall pay the city for the same in accordance with the following schedule of rates, to wit. Minimum monthly charge. For all 8-inch water meters, $106.50 per month. For all 6-inch water meters, $106.50 per month. For all 4-inch water meters, $71.50 per month. For all 3-inch water meters, $46.50 per month. For all 2-inch water meters, $26.50 per month. For all 1.5-inch water meters, $21.50 per month. For all 1-inch or smaller water meters, $14.50 per month. In addition to the above minimum monthly charge, the following rate schedule based on monthly readings as aforesaid also applies. From 0 cubic feet to 1,600 cubic feet at $4.70 per 100 cubic feet. Over 1,600 to 3,200 cubic feet at $4.60 per 100 cubic feet. Over 3,200 to 4,800 cubic feet at $4.55 per 100 cubic feet. Over 4,800 to 6,400 cubic feet at $4.50 per 100 cubic feet. Over 6,400 to 100,000 cubic feet at $4.30 per 100 cubic feet. Over 100,000 to 200,000 cubic feet at $3.90 per 100 cubic feet. Over 200,000 to 700,000 cubic feet at $3.50 per 100 cubic feet. Over 700,000 cubic feet at $3.25 per 100 cubic feet. B, all bills or invoices shall be dated and shall be due and payable upon presentation thereof. A penalty of 14% shall be added to the net sum due and payable if payment is not made within 20 days from the date of such invoice or bill. Each bill or invoice shall designate the date on and after which the penalty and amount thereof shall be added. Section 2, the rates established by the amendment shall become effective for the billing period beginning January 1st, 2017. Section 3, all ordinances or parts thereof inconsistent with the provisions of this ordinance being the same are hereby repealed. Attested to by Mark G. Schwer, City Clerk, approved by William P. Moon, Jr., Mayor.
Thank you, Jenna. Need a motion for Council Bill 2139.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? We did add 2 different line items in there from last year, breaking down cubic feet, so that's in the
New categories.
two new categories for our larger customers. Other discussion?
Question if there are any changes. There's a slight increase in rates in water.
Yeah, it looks like about a 40-cent increase in water and about 25% or 25-cent increase in sewer. 25-cent increase in sewer.
Okay, thank you.
Again, this is directly related to our O&M expenses, but our debt service for the borrowings we did for the major projects.
Understood.
Okay, Jenna, roll call.
Mr. Massey?
Yes.
Mr. Roth?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mr. Gustafson?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes. Next, we have Council Bill 2140, amending Article 2, Chapters 152-11 and 152-13, establishing a revised schedule of rates for sanitary sewage furnished and provided within or outside of the city. The first reading.
Be it ordained and enacted by the City of Oil City and Council assembled, and it is hereby ordained and enacted by authority of the same, Section 1, that Article 2, Chapter 152-11 of the Code of the City of Oil City is amended to add the following definitions. Equivalent dwelling unit, EDU. An equivalent dwelling unit shall be defined based on customer classification as follows. An EDU with regard to residential direct city customers shall be defined as any room, group of rooms or enclosure occupied or intended for occupancy as separate living quarters for a family or other group of persons living together or by persons living alone, such as a single-family home, an apartment unit, or half of a duplex structure. An EDU with regard to non-residential direct city customers shall be defined as each 4,596 cubic feet or less of water consumed per year therein. EDUs associated with each non-residential customer shall be computed annually based on the actual metered usage for the customer during the previous year. Each non-residential EDU, even though in a building or complex of buildings, shall be considered a separate EDU, even though it may be located in the same building with a residential unit or units or other commercial units. Each non-residential EDU, even though in a building constructed as flex space with other non-residential EDUs, shall be considered a separate EDU. In the case of non-residential direct city customers desiring to connect to the city sewer system and for which no water consumption data is available, water usage for the purpose of determining equivalent dwelling units shall be estimated from actual water usage from a substantially similar facility or data made available in DEP's Wastewater Facilities Manual and/or technical publications such as Wastewater Engineering by Metcalf and Eddy. An EDU with regard to tributary customer shall be defined as 8,797 cubic feet or less of wastewater contributed to the Oil City sewer system per year. The number of EDUs associated with each tributary customer shall be computed annually based on the actual metered wastewater contribution for the customer during the previous year and shall account for the total flow metered by all point of connection flow meters for the tributary customer, plus the number of unmetered EDUs located in the township and connected to the sewer system but whose flow is not conveyed through a point of connection meter. Tributary customers. Tributary or bulk customers are those customers which operate their own sanitary sewer system outside of the city limits and connect to the city's wastewater system at distinct locations. Section 2, that Article 2, Chapter 152-13 in the Code of the City of Oil City is amended to read as follows. 152-13, rates for sanitary sewage. All persons or other entities within the City of Oil City connected to the public sewer system shall pay to the city a monthly rental for sanitary sewage service based on the quantity of water furnished as evidenced by monthly meter readings of water meters installed for the purpose of measuring water furnished by the City of Oil City and/or any such other meters or measuring devices approved by the City of Oil City as may be installed and which shall accomplish the same effect. This monthly rental shall include a minimum monthly charge of $9.50 per equivalent dwelling unit (BDU), plus an additional usage charge of $3.45 for each 100 cubic feet of water consumption rate reported. All tributary customers connected to the city's public sewer system shall pay to the city a monthly rental for sanitary sewage service based on the amount of wastewater received by the City of Oil City as evidenced by monthly meter readings of flow meters installed for the purpose of measuring wastewater received by the City of Oil City. This monthly rental shall include a minimum monthly charge of $10.35 per equivalent dwelling unit (EDU), plus an additional usage charge of $1.85 for each 100 cubic feet of wastewater production that are reported. Section 3, this ordinance shall become effective for the billing period beginning January 1st, 2017. Section 4, all ordinances or parts of ordinances inconsistent with the provision of this ordinance be and the same are hereby repealed. Attested to by R.G. Schroeder, City Clerk, approved by William P. Wood, Jr., Mayor.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah. Good job, man. Need a motion on Council Bill 2140?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Again, just a slight increase, I guess.
Gentlemen, you do roll call?
Mr. Massey?
Yes.
Mr. Poff?
Yes.
Mr. Dunham?
Yes.
Mr. Gustafson?
Yes.
Mr. Henry?
Yes, thank you. Okay, now we come to public comments. Darrell Scott?
No, thank you.
Thank you for coming. Nancy Ryan?
No, thank you.
Thank you for coming. Alan Shearer? Schiller?
Well, I'll make one comment about the arts program. I didn't come as a working artist, but I came because of the advertisement in the Arts magazine. And I put well over $40,000 into house improvement at local businesses. So probably more like $80,000.
Okay. Well, thank you. Noel Bartlett?
No, thank you.
Thank you for coming. Dennis Alcorn?
No, thank you.
Thank you for coming. Bill Hamilton?
No, sir.
Thank you for coming. Barb Perudo?
Sure. As long as I'm here, I might as well make a meeting of it.
I think Bob will give you one more
And
time.
now I'm to 1 minute again?
1 minute.
First of all, I want to say I was very glad to read that the project on Central Avenue is going forward. I thought we were going to do that 2 or 3 years ago, and now it just is finally coming to fruition. So I'm glad to do that. However, I do want to do a follow-up on the fire thing tonight. The night I was here, you had people here that were asking you 2 things. Number one, they were saying, and I realize that this is, half of the people are only paying rent, so it doesn't really affect them directly, but that people are saying that they would take a small raise to keep the fire department intact. I don't know what's going on with communication, and I'm not sure what's in this budget. But the point is, that is not the only group that's saying that. But I'm not really advocating that. But you need to tell them where they can give you money for the fire department if they really believe that. You have a couple of fire trucks that we're paying lots of big money for, that if this was payment was removed from the budget would free money up for other things in the city. You've got an account over at Bridge Builders. You need to tell people, if you don't want to give us the money directly, put it in the fund over there and pay off one of these fire trucks or make the yearly payment so that you've got this money available for other things. The other thing as a follow-up of that is I drove around the city. I went to an area where there's always lots of leaves, and there were all these lovely yellow signs all over the place, and all the leaves had been raked, not to the curb line on the yard, but right into the street where they were going to be washed down the sewer system. And the last thing we need are leaves or trash or grit fouling up our sewer system and making it that much worse. If you really want to know how to help, get out there and don't put your leaves and your trash in the sewer system. Keep it in the garbage can or on your yard until the city can come and pick them up. Thank you, gentlemen. It's nice seeing you again.
Thank you for coming, Barb. Dan Farrows. Thanks for coming. Kathy Bailey.
One quick thing.
Yep.
If I may, I just want to remind everyone that Saturday, November 26th is Small Business Saturday. We are doing a Passport Again event for Oil City. I have some copies of these. I'd like to leave them on the table. Anyone can pick them up on their way out. But we just encourage everyone to come out on Small Business Saturday and support your local businesses.
Don't forget Christmas Past.
And Christmas Past is the following weekend, December 1st through 3rd. Tree lighting ceremony is on the 1st, which will be immediately after the council meeting. It's going through all weekend long.
The race, was the tree put up today?
It was. It is up right now.
The race.
And the race, the Jingle Bell 5K is December 3rd on Saturday morning. There's quite a bit going on that weekend. But yes, the tree has been installed. I believe they're decorating on Saturday morning. It is there, and it's nice and big. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Eric McFadden.
Just real quick, I just want to publicly thank manager, council, and mayor for the progress we've made on the contract. For those of you that don't know, we've been in it with council here over the last probably about 3 or so months trying to negotiate a contract, and we've made great strides. We've got 1 or 2 moving parts to figure out. I just wanted to publicly thank everybody for the support and the help and the work's put into that.
Okay. Sorry. Thank you, Eric. Thank you for coming. Mr. Mulberger. Thank you for coming. Barbara Pierce. Thank you for coming. George Cooley. Thank you for coming. Chris Spore.
No, thank you.
Thanks for coming. Chad Finley.
No.
Thank you for coming. Fred Buchel.
You can't hear.
Thanks for coming.
See you up through there.
Reverend King. Thank you for coming. Flavius.
No comment, sir.
Thank you for coming. Safana.
Just one quick thing. I've been sitting here for almost 2 hours and I simply cannot take my eyes off this, Bill. I'm so jealous of your tie.
They have a moment at Four Region Alliance. Thank you for all coming. Next, we're going to have, if you want to stay, or if council wants to add any more comments, we're going to have a roundtable discussion with community ambulance service. If you'd like to stay, you're more than welcome to stay, or you know, go home and have dinner.
More questions?
Thank you very much.
Yourself for straight into the camera. That's why I said that.
We're here to have a roundtable discussion concerning the ambulance. So, who's going to start the roundtable?
I think here just the general overview that the Oil City Fire Department, in an effort to realize some additional revenue coming into the city, has been kicking around. I think it's been probably for some time, but I think it came to a head this year due to the financial difficulties the city's having and how it's affecting the fire department. So I think the thought was that too, before we embark on that, although we're looking at it hard and very serious and have looked at numbers and staffing issues and things of that nature, so it's definitely something that we're looking at and considering. But we wanted to get some input from Community Ambulance as far as what any thoughts or ideas they may have that say would help out the city in some fashion, and whatever that means, we're open for any discussion or dialogue. You guys, I have a little bit of experience with the ambulance operations, but certainly not the experience you guys have. So I think we're just looking for a general, we're not looking for any trade secrets, we're not looking for any secret hidden monies or anything like that, but we're looking for some serious revenue streams that potentially could be tapped by the city. We know the Community Ambulance is already contributing on a monthly basis. I think that's something that, as I think we discussed that not long after I got on board last year, to see whether there was something that could be done there. So from our standpoint, we're just looking for a general roundtable discussion to see if there's something there that we're missing, or whether there's a possibility to do some partnering, or whether there's not, or whether this is something we need to take a harder look at, whether you folks are having any problems with response times or staffing issues or anything we're not aware of. So I think I guess the base of this meeting is what it is. It's a general roundtable discussion, and at this point, we're not looking for any commitments from anybody, but I think we need to explore some information. So
Do you have specific questions?
do we have specific questions?
And that was part of the impression that I had, that you guys had questions you wanted us to.
Well, I can probably come up with a few. I mean, obviously with the budget discussions that came up and the talk about trimming the fire department, the community kind of rose up. And my impression of that whole, the biggest part of that issue was for emergency medical services provided in Oil City. That seemed to be everybody's largest concern. In particular, the potential of closing the North Side Station and having it even be, slower response times. It seems to me like that we have somewhat of a partnership going on, that we work with each other to provide that service. Budgetarily, we're having a tough time. Costs keep rising and so forth. And so they've been working on a proposal to purchase ambulances, staff both of our stations. We know that they're doing the work. They're trained, many of them, if not all of them, are trained to do that work. And it seems to me that they are always there first for pretty much every call. I wondered, part of me wonders why that is. Part of me doesn't want to dive into a duplication of services and do harm to your organization if we were to go this way. And so I stated at the last meeting that I would like input from you guys, from community. You're here, you're established, and I guess maybe get a better handle on what services you actually do offer to the community.
Well, I guess there's a couple things based on your comment where you said it always appears as they're on scene first. And I'm not going to dispute that. And I think there's a couple reasons for that. First of all, the way the dispatch is set up, QRS can respond lights and sirens on a higher percentage of calls than the ambulance. So that.
What is QRS?
Quick response service. The fire trucks. They're the firemen, the fire departments, not just here, but fire departments around. They have calls are categorized. Certain calls, the fire department can respond lights and sirens that were not permitted to respond lights and sirens. So in some instances like that, they can get through intersections faster than us, or get on scene faster. A couple other things. I know it's only a few blocks, but there is a little bit of travel time that we got to go farther if the call's towards the center of town anywhere. And thirdly is if we just had a call, we could be coming from the hospital. We could be on our way back into the city from the hospital when they're always in the city limits. That's just like saying the police department is always going to beat us because they're almost always in their car. Even just to start with, they're always in their car. So they're going to get there faster than us. So that's just a couple general things about that comment.
The logistics of where the station's located, obviously is a hamper to that right off the bat.
Just why don't you tell us where your 3 stations are located?
We have one at 1010 Buffalo Street in Franklin.
Right by Shopping Save.
1502 West First Street. So we're down a few blocks before we can get into the city.
That's it. Is that in Oil City or?
Oh yeah, that's in Oil
It's
City.
in the city.
And then we have one on 257 in Seneca.
And you have 2 ambulances in the station on West First Street, right?
No, we have one.
You have 1 down there.
Well, we have 1 staff.
Staff.
We have 2 ambulances, but 1 staff.
Okay.
When you staff it, you staff with 2 people then?
2 people. Yes, there are 2 people staffed on every ambulance.
24/7, 365 days.
We have a 24-hour staffed ambulance at all 3 stations, Monday through Friday. For a 16-hour period, we have another staffed ambulance. So that is, well, that's our staffing. So we have 3 7 days a week and 4 for 16 of the hours on Monday through Friday. And that's the majority of the call volume time. I mean, half the calls happen between 8 and 4 o'clock, 8 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon.
So do you feel like you guys, we all work together pretty well to provide this service for?
Well, I can tell you from our perspective and a meeting that we had with Mr. Schroyer and Chief Hines a couple weeks ago, I thought we had a very good working relationship, but in listening to the council meeting last time, I don't know that they have that same opinion about us.
I didn't really have an opinion, and that's why I really wanted.
I even commented to them as I thought that we did have a good working relationship, and we work with every fire department, we work with every BLS volunteer ambulance around here, and we work fine with all of them. We don't have a competitive nature with any of them. We assist all the other ambulance service. We helped Corn Planter establish through paperwork, through equipment, supplies. We helped give them stuff to start their ambulance. And then they turned around here and badmouthed us. But there's nothing we can do about that. We think it was important for the community, so we did it.
If Oil City were to have its own ambulance service, what would that mean to you and your company?
Well, it would obviously have a negative effect revenue-wise, and it would probably mean...
And I guess, like, is it like negative effect that's a fly that's bothering me, or is that negative effect like, we're going out of business? Because those are, obviously it's going to have a negative effect business-wise, but like, what does that really mean?
Well, the biggest things that it could affect here is, we've been at this for almost 50 years now. And the thing about it is EMS has a pretty finite amount of money that you can spend. And there is only so many calls in a day. So if you have X number of ambulances and you can afford to fund that many ambulances to be staffed, if you add another one, somebody or both places are losing money because of it. If Burger King came over and sat beside McDonald's, McDonald's would lose some of their money, and Burger King would gain some, but between the 2 of them, they would battle it out for that last dollar. Would it put us out of business in the county? No, but I can tell you that we would utilize our vehicles differently within the county, just like we do now. I mean, real honestly, we make decisions in the city of Oil City that, from your perspective, might seem the wrong decision, but we know that 24 hours a day you have advanced life support capabilities here in the city. So is it better for us or better for the whole community to have an ambulance here where you're duplicating the same capabilities, or do you short here to make sure you're better here? It might take 5 extra minutes to get here, but the care is given. I mean, you're not running on scene and jumping in the ambulance and heading to the hospital that quickly. Somebody's giving them the proper care, whether it's us or whether it's the fire department. So we make a lot of decisions based on what capabilities are in different communities at certain times. So if that is used against us, I can tell you we were trying to do what is best for the community at the time. I'm not going to apologize for it, trying to do the right thing.
I don't think anybody's like...
Well, I'm just saying, it's the right thing at the right time when we try to make those decisions.
My concern was kind of along the lines of your McDonald's Burger King analogy, though, where if we were to endeavor into this kind of a thing, would this effort dilute each of our services to the point where...
It would, yes. It would, and I can tell you some of the areas where it would dilute. We do a lot of free or low-cost services that are not part of the ambulance. We do, I don't know how many standbys that we do in the city of Oil City at virtually no cost. We lose money doing football standby, 5K runs, anybody and everybody that wants a walk on the bike trail, that has a pee-wee football game. We lose money every time we do those, and we won't be able to afford to do that. Anybody that we take to the hospital in an emergency, especially in the evening, but a lot of times even during the day, we provide residents here a lot of below-cost wheelchair transportation. I guess my comment would be is, if the fire department started an ambulance, would they be a full service? Or would they pick and choose what they wanted to do and then leave the residents high and dry on the rest of it? Because we can't provide wheelchair service for 20 bucks if we're not getting paid to take them into the hospital. I mean, our cost is above $20.
Yeah, I don't think that they pick and choose, though. I think they pretty
No,
much
I mean,
everything.
from the emergency side they do. But would they pick up the full service of what we do? Because there would be a lot of things that we would say we can't afford to do that now because we don't have the revenue to do it.
There seemed to be a perception in the community a few weeks ago, and I didn't see that myself, but that by making a change in our fire department, we were abandoning emergency medical services for this.
I don't think you were.
No, I don't.
I mean, quite frankly, and I'm not advocating if there's 3 firemen, 10 firemen, 20 firemen. They do a great job at what they do. But you guys need to determine how much you can afford. We can't determine how much you can afford. You guys have to decide how many firemen you can afford, what services you want to provide, and not just fire department. You have to do that with police, water, sewage. You have to do it with everything. We have one little niche that we take care of ourselves on, and you guys have a whole community to do that on.
There's a lot of balancing to do.
There is.
Now, your memberships, how much are they a year?
How much our memberships are?
Yeah.
They range from, the lowest is $30, and I think the highest is $40.
And that's throughout the whole year for
Yes.
anyone to get to be, you're a member. As a member, what do you get?
The biggest thing is that you get a guarantee that you're not going to receive a bill. I'll bet if I ask most people across, not just maybe you guys, but if you ask most people in any discussions about their insurance, what's the one thing they say? Higher copay, higher deductible. If I transport you and you're a member of our service and you get a $1,000 bill from us and your insurance says it's all going to deductible, you don't get a bill from us. It all gets written off. And
Because I'm a member.
because you're a member.
And it still would apply to your deductible?
Yep.
That's a good deal.
It is.
How many members do you have?
I'm just going to estimate countywide households about 5,000. I'm not sure exactly. I mean, I don't always know if it's a one-person household or a five-person household, so actual individuals, I can't tell you, but it's in the neighborhood of like 4,800 to 5,000 households.
They take advantage of that membership.
Oh, yes. Well, not everybody wants to use the ambulance.
Right, but it's there.
But there's a lot of people that are members that save money. If you have Medicare, if you don't have co-insurance, you save 20% off your bill every time. I mean, what Medicare doesn't pay gets written off. So you gamble if you, I mean, some people can't afford co-insurance and it picks that 20% up. Some people don't buy co-insurance and it gets written off.
What percentage of your calls are in Oil City proper?
Well, it's easier for me to say usually about out of the station. Out of Oil City Station, it's probably, I'm gonna just, without looking this up, this is my best guesstimate. I'm gonna say about 30%.
So 30% of your total calls are in Oil City, you believe?
Well, that's.
Well, again, that's out of this station.
So-
If it goes up into Corn Planter, it would still be out of this station. I'm not sure, I mean, I know that the fire department has supplied you numbers. I'm gonna guess that there's probably maybe 20% that are actual in the city limits, 20 to 25%.
How much business do you write off in an annual basis? Because I know this was always a big deal. So there's, at the end, uncollectibles at some point become uncollectible. So what do you write off, do you think, on an annual basis?
I might have that exact number, I'm not sure. It's big. I know that, it's big. Just bear with me for a second. If you want to ask another question while I'm looking, you can.
Just in case you don't know, as John said, next year is going to be our 50th year serving Venango County, started in '67. And we've certainly grown over the years. John's been there 30 years, I've been there 30 years. And we came from short Chevy ambulances, and I think we had 3 of them when I started in 1985. And we've grown to 8 ambulances and 8 wheelchair vans. The wheelchair service has grown tremendously over the years because of the insurance industry not allowing them to be transported in an ambulance, per se. We used to take people home in an ambulance that didn't have any way home. We would do that for free. Well, the insurance industry stepped up and said, don't be billing us then. If you're taking them in, you're taking them back for nothing, don't be billing us. So all that changed, and that started around 1995.
If it's here, I can't find it. I can tell you, and there's a difference between uncollectible accounts and contractual allowance. I'm sure that it is well over $1 million a year that either gets written off because it's uncollectible or that will never have. I'll give you an example. If you're on Medicare and I transport you to the hospital, and again, for a round number, it's a $1,000 bill. Medicare is going to say, we'll pay you $400. That's $600 right off the bat is a contractual allowance. We know nobody's going to get that $600. It's a matter of how much we might have to write off of the $400, because Medicare approves $400 and only pays 80% of that. So the other 20% still could, yes, shake your head at that. And that's where, if you're a subscriber of ours, that $80 of the 20%, which is $80, If they have co-insurance, we'll get the $80. If they don't have co-insurance, it gets written off. So there's a difference in the money we don't collect and how it's categorized. But it's a large number every year.
It'll be challenging to run that organization, you know, with those variables and.
Well, and it's difficult because I can't tell you how many calls I'm gonna have today.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you how many people I need to staff today. And then on top of that, even if I could tell you how many calls, I can't tell you the payer mix every day. Are you going to have commercial insurance? Are you going to have Medicare? Are you going to have Medicaid? Are you going to have no insurance? And that all affects how we get reimbursed.
You respond regardless.
We respond regardless. We do, I don't know how much free service, because, I mean, we don't ask before we take an emergency call, do you have insurance? We go, we transport, and then we bill. I said, we're a business different than, we'll say McDonald's. You don't walk out of McDonald's with your food till you pay for it. An ambulance, you use it and then you try to get paid for it. So
sometimes that's difficult.
If people want to pay for it, they do. If they don't want to pay for it, they don't.
Yeah,
There's really nothing you can do about that.
There's kind of a moral obligation to respond, you know, I mean, you can't just pick and choose.
Well, and it's the same thing. We do a lot of interfacility transports from Northwest to Pittsburgh, Erie. We don't ask what your payer source is for those calls. I mean, you know a lot of times when you load that patient in the back of the ambulance, you're losing money every time you go to Pittsburgh. You know it. But that's not a question we ask.
And some people don't understand, obviously, we're in the transportation business. You know, that's the bottom line. We got to service the customers. And I know it's been brought up, I think it's been brought up at council that, you know, we have sent units out all the time. Well, obviously, we have to do that because it might be your mother or your sister that needs to go someplace. You know, obviously, we're in the business of transporting patients, so that's what we have to do. And Northwest certainly sends a few people out here.
And that's part of the dilemma too, is you have, who needs the ambulance more? The chest pain person sitting in the hospital that needs to get to Pittsburgh to go right into a cardiac catheterization, or somebody that's been sick for 3 days and now they call for an ambulance. Which one needs the ambulance more right now?
I mean, we've tried to establish a system with the hospital, so if we really know that it needs to go, then we look at our entire scenario for that day and try to make accommodations.
Would you characterize what you do then more of a transportation type of business as opposed to providing emergency medical services?
Absolutely not. I mean, we provide, not every person gets emergency medical services. I mean, there are some people that don't need it.
Yeah.
Or we're not capable. We get calls for earaches. There's absolutely nothing you can do for an earache except put them on the stretcher and take them to the ER. There's absolutely no medical emergency services provided to that person other than that's a transportation.
Yeah. I can't imagine calling an ambulance for an earache.
You get a scanner.
Have you seen a correlation between the advent of Obamacare versus the number of calls that go to an emergency room? Because that was the whole idea behind the Affordable Care Act, was the fact that more people were using the emergency room to do their earaches. Perfect example.
I don't attribute it more to Obamacare, because if you have insurance, you still are going to have one heck of a copay or deductible that's going to get attached to that. So you with insurance are not going to make that decision. You're going to go to your primary care doctor, or you're going to go down to the urgent care or whatever. I can't even think of it. You're going to make those because that's a better consumer decision to make for somebody that's going to pay out of their pocket. What you do see is a higher number of patients on Medicaid or self-pay are gonna go to the emergency room because they know that they're not gonna pay for it. If you go to the doctor, you don't walk out of there without paying your copay. But the ER, they have to treat you first. So people with no insurance or on Medicaid don't have to make that consumer decision like you do that have private insurance.
You talked about staffing. How many people you have in your office to do all your billing and?
We have 3 people that do billing. I mean, they do assortment of things, but 3 people actively work on billing.
That's 7 days a week or just
5 days. They have a 40-hour job.
Okay.
I mean, they do all the billing, and then they do answer phones, they help at subscription time, they do payroll, accounts payable, accounts receivable. I mean, it's everything. They do all of it.
So you don't have a private company doing that?
No.
Where you get a reimbursement or
No,
something?
because we feel that we can do it more efficiently in-house.
A lot of medical coding involved and stuff.
Yeah, our people are trained to, we provide training for them. I mean, they go to trainings, they get the annual updates, changes in Medicare, Medicaid. I mean, they all change how they do it. Every year, something changes.
So we don't really have the staffing for that, and I worry that would be a large undertaking in addition to, operating an ambulance and so forth. But so I guess there are companies that do that.
There are companies that do it, and they charge differently. Some do by a percent of, I don't know if it's percent of bill, percent of receivable, or a flat fee. I mean, I really don't even, I asked one person at another service how much, because he uses a billing service, and I asked how he did it, because I didn't know. I mean, we've never done anything with a billing service before.
I guess in 50 years you've evolved right into whatever the practices are, and your employees know how to do that. So.
Yes. And heck, I think our youngest employee that does our billing has probably been there, started part-time probably 12 or 14 years ago. And we have a lot of longevity at our company. So with that, we like to think they're learning something as they go along.
I want to say I'm grateful you're here, and this last month has, made me very aware of the emotions involved in this community anyways, for having the availability of those kinds of services. So, that's why I wanted to, speak with you and hear your input and learn more about what you guys do and what you offer, as we consider what to do with the future. Obviously, we need to generate more revenues to continue to keep, our services where they are, and we're having a difficult time with that, and things like property taxes, and we're kind of flatlining or maybe slightly declining there as the community gets smaller, but the need is still there. The desire of the residents of this community was very plain a couple of weeks ago. I mean, so that's why I do appreciate you coming here this evening and bringing me up to speed about what you're about and
well,
what you offer. So.
And I think that we've been open with the city, and I've met with Steve a couple times. He asked, or we talked about, is there a possibility of some kind of cooperation? And I told Steve, I said, really, I would be in favor of it if we could work to something manageable, where we're splitting some of the costs, we're splitting some of the revenue. I'm not opposed to that. I've been very upfront about that. I'm not opposed to that.
I kind of think that that's the direction that we can do what's best for the community.
But I also told Steve, I said, unfortunately, there's 4 entities here that have to come to that same conclusion. There's the city, there's us, and then there's 2 unions. And everybody has to have that same desire to make it work, for it to work.
Yeah.
I can tell you from our perspective, we are open. I told Steve, there's ways that not just Oil City, system-wide. I mean, we always look system-wide. And system-wide, there could be betterments made to,
That's how I feel about all these services. We need to broaden our basis of support. You know, when it's just inherent on just the city of Oil City to provide, you know, this top-notch department that we have. You know, the letters that I've received, email, you know, from volunteer fire chiefs, you know, and you cannot cut that department. We need that department. We need that department. I know why they need that department. They need that.
because they can't staff
Yeah,
it.
they can't staff. They need the safety net.
Yeah.
But and then I ride around the county and I see no fire cut signs out in townships, and I wonder, where do you people get off, you know, when you're not contributing? So somehow, in the future, it's going to have to come to this broader base of support, countywide, regional-wide, and we're all players in that, I guess. And
Everybody is, and again, I'm not an advocate for cutting or for adding to the fire department. It makes no difference to us as a company or me personally. I really don't. Obviously, if you can afford it, they provide a great service here.
Yes, yeah, they do.
But I can't tell you if you can afford it or not.
Yeah.
Do you have a per cost for the ambulance to go out the door?
I do. I will very soon. I was trying to get all my information to the accountant to get our newest number. I can actually email it to anybody that's in, or at least email it to you tomorrow or tonight. I can even get that number for the last couple years.
Say that number's $1,000.
Oh, no, it's not that much to get out the door.
I'm just using hypothetical.
Okay.
Say that number's $1,000. How many, out of the bills, how many $1,000 do you actually collect as a percentage? How much?
For emergency calls?
A full bill.
For emergency calls?
Yes.
0.
Is there any instances where you would collect a full bill?
A full bill? Oh, if we're lucky, maybe. I'm saying this, but I'd say if we get 10 a year, that would be great.
Okay.
But there are,
I think
but they're
you're
primarily.
answering separate questions. He's asking, like, your ambulance costs X amount of dollars to pull out of the
Yes.
station. How often is that X amount of dollars covered? Not the actual, how much, like you're gonna charge $1,000, but it only takes 500 to come out, whatever those numbers are. You know, how much of those X amount of dollars are covered? How often is that? That's your question, right?
Okay.
Not the full.
Not the
what
full
you're
amount.
charged.
Okay.
How many times do you break even or more when the ambulance goes out? Is that right? Yeah.
I'm going to, again, this is just a quick estimate, and I can fact check it for you, but this is just going to be my quick estimate right now, is if we do 25% of the time, I would be ecstatic. But I don't know if I can't tell you, but I will fact check it, and I can email that.
When you have a car accident situation, you have auto insurance, is that trauma-related service 100% reimbursable?
Part of it depends on your auto insurance. A lot of auto insurance, unfortunately, Medicare is sort of the standard set. And the government, by its own, they have done testings twice over about the last 10 years and found in doing their surveys that they underpay what they have found the true cost of an ambulance to be. And nobody really wants to pay more than Medicare because that's the standard set by the government. Auto insurances pay, it's either 110 or 113% of Medicare. So they pay slightly above Medicare.
My understanding is if it's trauma-related,
That doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter for you guys.
If you fell right here and complained that your ankle hurt, or if your ankle was cut off, we'd get paid the same.
I always understood that if you're in a car accident and you have a trauma-related service, those cost containment measures from Medicare don't apply.
More so probably for the hospitals than for an ambulance.
Because I've seen a lot of those stat medevac bills.
They're 15, 18,000. to fly from here to Pittsburgh. They're in that 15,000, but they don't get paid that. They can bill you that, but they don't get paid that.
So you're saying 75% of the time you lose money on a call?
I would, that's my estimate right now. I'll double check that, but that's what my guess is.
Well, I guess this isn't the best time to ask, but I will then. I mean, is there a possibility that you guys can increase your monthly contribution to the city based on something, some formula, based on some partnership?
Well,
is there money there to do that?
There are ways there are different ways depending on what kind of commitment that you want to make. Personnel, if you want to commit personnel to be available for calls, obviously you can probably make more money than if you just want money given like we do our stipend now.
We just want money.
And just for council's sake, I can tell you, we give you I don't know if you guys know this or not, we give you $750 a month for a stipend for the work that the fire department does on quick response. And that has evolved. We used to give them X number of dollars for every ALS call they did. QRS did. Then we paid a little bit more if they rode as a second paramedic for critical calls. If they rode with us, we paid them a little bit more. It got so cumbersome that we came up with an average
flat fee
that we were doing it instead of 500 this month, 600 this month, 900 this month. We sort of averaged it out, and that's where we came up with the $750. I can tell you that is all non-reimbursable service that the fire department provides. Unfortunately, there is no provision in any billing to collect money for that. This was more a case where, I'm going to say 15 years ago, just as a rough guess, that it was a way that we thought we were helping the fire department generate some income to help, whether it was personnel costs, whether it was purchase equipment, replace equipment type thing. I'm not saying that it's not possible, but it has to be something within reason. And I mentioned this before, is I think that even something that you guys could do to help us, where it would be, instead of us just giving you more, that you could give us something, and is 911 will accept designation of services as the primary provider. And that would mean a lot to us. It doesn't cost the city a dime. But what it does is it makes sure that we're getting we get the first option to go on calls now, which we're doing. So it wouldn't even change anything that's currently happening, but it's showing your support for us, and in return, or that we might be able to come up with something that we could,
a bigger stipend,
make a difference on the stipend, yes. But there are ways. I know that Steve and I have sat a couple times and talked about a cooperation with staffing and vehicles and revenue and things like that. And I don't know where you guys stand on that. And I wanted to hear, I told Steve, I said, we can come up with any plan we want, but if we don't know if you guys are supporting it, or if, like I said, it takes 4 entities here to support any kind of cooperation agreement.
I mean, it's obvious, like, at this late date, we can't do our budget and say, we're going to start an ambulance service next month, but we feel like it's worthy of conversation, it's worthy of exploring, and how we can better deliver those services to the community, because it's obvious to me those are highly desired services. And so we struggle to meet our budgetary requirements, and so I feel like we're doing our due diligence to have these discussions, and I do appreciate you coming and speaking about that. But I don't know what form it'll take in the future and whatnot. I mean, You know, you talk about, we make a lot of calls and they're essentially, as you described them, non-reimbursable, and that's becoming a problem for us.
It is, well, and we do a lot, there's a lot of calls that we do that are non-reimbursable even to us. I guess one of the common ones might be is a lot of diabetic calls.
My uncle's that way. I mean, I think you give them free rides 2 days a week.
Well, not even rides. I mean, it's treat and release. Usually, it takes a medication. You inject the medication, person wakes up, they refuse treatment, we go back to the station. We treated that person to a case where they didn't need to go to the hospital. It cost us time, it cost us money, it made us unavailable potentially for another call, but we get nothing in return. Insurance companies don't pay for treat and release.
Without transportation.
Correct. We only get paid the only way we have a chance to get paid is if we transport.
It would seem to me, and a logical look at, what insurance companies deal with and costs of caring for patients and whatnot, that a quick response, the quicker the better, is going to reduce the medical costs in the long run for most of these patients. So our guys are getting there very quickly because we're in 2 stations, we're staffed 24/7. We're making that quick response, I'm sure saving a lot of lives, and the medical insurance field sees that as trivial, I guess.
Well, the number of lives saved, I don't want to trivialize it. The number of lives saved in a year over 1 or 2 minutes is minimal. It might reduce some of the longer term effects. It might take a little bit longer on the recovery side. But there are not too many.
But even as opposed to no services available whatsoever.
Correct.
Which is, I think, everybody's biggest
We talk about the emergency responses, and it depends on how the call's dispatched, but truly, the people that are in life-threatening situations are probably 3% of the calls. It's very low.
Not according to that crowd that was here 2 weeks ago.
Well,
I would have liked to have fact-checked a lot of things that were said that night.
Just an emotional issue.
It is. It always is. Anytime you take a service away, it's emotional. I mean, I understand that.
So how many employees are in with community ambulance?
Approximately 55.
Wow.
It was about, I don't know the exact number, 28 or 29 full-time, and then we have several part-time.
And you just Venango County, is it?
We don't service outside Venango County.
Okay.
We don't serve all of Venango County. We serve most of the population. If you get up like Cherry Tree with where the hardwood place is up there, Emergicare comes down from Titusville. If you get down towards Emlenton has an ambulance down there that they service areas in that area. You get towards Barkeyville, a service from Grove City comes up that
So
way.
more or less the center of Venango County.
Yes, and that's why we have our stations sort of scattered.
But we do respond to Titusville.
Yeah,
maybe once or twice a week anymore, it seems, because they leave their area uncovered. We won't do that.
And that hinders us sometimes.
And if the city would have a fire department ambulance and they're needed or dispatched somewhere, they've got to go.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean they're just going to be able to do it right here.
We still do that now.
Yeah, you go to Tyneside.
Yeah, we go to Titusville, we go to, it doesn't really change anything.
No, but it would happen more often.
Yeah.
Question, I guess, and you mentioned you do a lot of, like, if you do transports to Pittsburgh, and how do you cover for that? I mean, do you bring somebody else in?
Well, the crew that we have in for 16 hours, it was added on about 5 or 6 years ago. We did it with a trial run for a while. We found that we were averaging at least one trip to Pittsburgh or Erie every day between 8 and 4, and we were doing at least one between 4 and midnight. So we actually added that additional crew.
Okay.
So they are the first crew out
Yeah.
for trips. That is their main responsibility. Now, do they actually take it every day? No. But that is the first responsibility that we say is they're taking at least the first out-of-county trip. After that, we have options. We have a paging system. We can either page for additional people to come into work, and sometimes you're successful and sometimes you're not. We may send one of our station crews out, and with office staff, if it's during the day, during normal business hours, we might say that an office staff becomes our on-duty crew. Or we may take the trip ourselves. We always try, our goal is to usually try to keep 3 ambulances in the city, or in the county. It doesn't always work that way. Last night, or yesterday from 1 o'clock, about noon, I'm gonna say noon's when we got the first notification. From noon till about 7:30 last night, we had 8 transports to either Pittsburgh area. Now that makes it difficult. We handled all of them. We had a lot of people coming into work. We had on-duty crews going out, but we always try, we don't go below 2 crews in the county. But we try to keep 3 here.
That's what I was wondering, if you ever had an empty station.
No, we don't. We will not do that.
Yeah.
Other that's why I said we get called to Titusville occasionally, because they will. They'll empty their station out, and then it becomes
Somebody else's problem.
It becomes an issue or problem, or somebody else has to deal with those emergencies. And unfortunately, we don't want to do that. We don't want to go to Titusville. It takes us away from our communities that we deal with. But you lose your ability to make that decision.
Yeah.
911 says you're gone. You're gone.
Yeah.
You can't say no.
Yeah, there's kind of a moral obligation.
It's not, well, it's a legal obligation.
Yeah.
We can't say if we get a call today right downtown, we can't say we're not going. We know that person, we know they have no insurance, we're not going. We have to go.
Yeah, understandable.
I have a question. You made a comment that you operate on a 75% loss and every call that you go out on. How do you stay in business?
Sometimes the loss isn't as big. It might be like a borderline loss, but you try to make money by appropriate staff. Well, but I'll tell you, our last 2 fiscal years, we have lost money, a pretty substantial amount of money.
I was just curious. I mean, I don't know how you can stay in business doing that.
Well, you can't do it for forever, but for the last couple of years, we have taken a pretty substantial net loss.
Is there a danger of you not staying in business much longer because of this?
No. We are financially stable. We can withstand to take some hit every year.
But there are services going out of business.
Yeah, there are a tremendous amount of services.
There's probably been 6 in the tri-state region in the past year.
The problem is that if you live at the top of the ladder all your life, you never have a dime to fall back on. When money was easier to get in the 90s and the early 2000s, and we were very fiscally conservative. We put money away, and we've allowed our investments to grow, but we don't get outside monies. We've had a couple people leave us small amounts of money, but nothing that we're living off of. But we have been very fiscally conservative and been able to put money away and deal with it. So we can withstand a loss every now and again.
Oil City we were to have our own ambulance, what would happen to community ambulance in the future? What would happen to your business?
Well, we would probably have to review what happened. I mean, would we still have a station down here? Absolutely, for a while we would. Because if they had one ambulance here, they're going to be on, there's multiple calls almost every day. Not every day, but almost every day. So the calls now where we have a delayed response because we're transporting somebody now and we either come from our Seneca station or we're turning around from the hospital and getting back. They would face those same dilemmas.
Because I guess what I'm hearing is like, we could use another ambulance in Venango County or Oil City, but there's not the money to support another ambulance.
There is not
That's
money to
what I
support it.
believe you're trying to.
I'm saying that there could be some real benefits.
Like safety, medically speaking, we would benefit greatly by that, but
I don't think-
financially, there's a loss.
I don't really think that safety is an issue because we have a very good system in the county. If all of our ALS ambulances are on calls and there is a chest pain call in Franklin or Oil City or anywhere, there is Corn Planter, there's Reno, there's Utica that all have volunteer services. Any one of them can get on scene and they will dispatch Oil City Fire Department to provide a paramedic. This county is very fortunate for all the services that are provided. For a small rural county, I can tell you that they probably get better service than you can in a lot of bigger cities.
And it was brought up at your last council meeting, I'm guessing that, and Mark was explaining about if everybody's tied up, you might have to wait 30 minutes to get an ambulance. Well, generally, that's not the case, because you're going to get a volunteer ambulance as long as they can crew. And he had talked about maybe waiting for Titusville or Emergent Care to come down, or even Emlenton. Has Emlenton ever been up here?
In Seneca, we've had.
Not very.
Emlenton's been in Seneca?
Yeah, but that doesn't happen very
Not very
No, yeah, I mean, and that's the point. It was kind of irrelevant because we have enough volunteer services around here can generally get the patient to the
The
hospital.
number of times that you have a service come that's not one of our 3 local volunteers is either dumb luck because they were at this hospital and they hear it on the radio and can respond. Even that probably,
That's happened once, and I know.
other than ourselves, or the 3 volunteer services, there probably hasn't been 5 responses in this county or in this service area in the whole year. I mean,
What's happening with, I think Mark was trying to hit on the other night though, is we're getting increased with the volunteers not able to crew, only sending 1 person. And we're having to send 1 or 2 people now with their ambulance because they're not able to crew either. We've had that multiple times.
Well, and that's certainly.
And that's one of the problems is the volunteer service is dying.
and who would you be talking about in particular? I mean, is there a service in particular?
Both volunteer services that come in here.
You're talking about Reno and Corn Planter. You're saying they sometimes only crew with 1 person.
Yeah.
How often do you think that happens?
Not very, but yeah, that's, you know,
It's been getting more frequent.
It's getting more and more frequent, especially with Reno. Yeah, I hate to throw them under the bus, but that's getting more and more, especially with them.
And the unfortunate thing is, not everybody needs transported in the next 10 minutes. If you've been sick for 3 days, and we've had this argument with 911 for years, we get alpha calls. Alpha's the lowest level of call. Somebody that's had the flu for the last 72 hours, and we're going to have a response time that might be 20 minutes. They won't wait. They think somebody needs an ambulance right now for an alpha call, so you're going to tie up what is potentially the only advanced life support unit in the county available for something that could wait for a half an hour to do. And I can tell you there are a lot of bigger cities that do that. They won't, if they're down to 1 unit, they will make alpha calls wait until, they could wait up to an hour because they won't even send an ambulance on those calls until they get at least somebody else available. Our system here is so tight and so concerned about anybody ever having to wait. Nobody around here waits.
If you go to the big city, that's where you're waiting. I mean, the things that happen here are 100% compared to what happens in the big cities.
When you say a big city, I don't.
Miami, we had a
Cleveland.
gentleman, yeah, we had a gentleman come up and give us a class from Miami, and obviously we were talking about all these issues. He says, oh, they're 45 minutes if they get one in an hour. You know, he says,
These are calls, earache calls that I spoke about earlier. That person can wait. They don't need immediate transport.
You guys see it
Yeah,
happen.
but we also see where the alpha turns out that it actually should have been a delta.
It can happen.
And that does happen.
But in the same term, when you say those people can wait, yes, maybe they can wait, but we're on scene with them, and you're tying us up waiting for 20 minutes, 30 minutes to get an ambulance, and that takes us out of service for the next call or a fire or what have you. We can't just leave because we're waiting on an ambulance and this patient doesn't need to go right now. We're on scene, we're tied up, we're committed, we can't leave.
If you get a fire call, you don't leave?
We don't leave. We can't leave. We can't. That's abandonment. We can't abandon our patient.
I'm not blaming this on you guys. I blame some of this because if 911 just triaged better sometimes, they wouldn't even be sending the fire department out on some of these alpha calls.
Well, that's the problem, but it's all.
But you guys want to run on every day.
Yeah, but that's all because of how the person answers the questions on the phone. Yeah, from working at 911.
Yeah, I mean, that system
It's all,
is flawed.
because like I said, we go, I'd say 10% of our alphas probably end up getting ALS treatment.
Well, but and I look at it a little bit different from a private residence. It could happen at Oakwood Heights right now. There's trained medical people there. They know what the patient condition is, and it's still, it has to go right now. Well, it doesn't, they don't all have to go right now, but that's what happens in this county now. Everybody goes now.
So we could use our resources better.
Yeah, exactly. But we have worked some things out with 911. If we are tied up, we'll give them a response time, and we've tried to work some times out to if we're going to be over that, then either go ahead and whatever makes sense, you trip another step.
Because that's the same kind of call that causes problems with volunteer services a lot. They do a tremendous job. I don't want to take away from them, but they're on their own time. They don't want to run in to run calls just because somebody has been vomiting for the last 3 days. That is not fun for them. It's not fun for anybody, but that's going to get vomited on is what I'm saying. But if they overutilize the volunteers, it makes it a little tougher the next time when the tones go off. They say, I've already been out once tonight, I gotta go to work tomorrow, I don't wanna get up again at 11 o'clock now, run into station and run another call. If you try to overutilize them on calls that can wait, it would help solve some of the manpower issues with them.
And the other thing is that when you guys say that there needs to be another ambulance, if the volume was such that it required another crew put on, we would have another crew put on. You know, our numbers in call volume have to take a balance.
For us, it's more about supplementing, bringing revenue into the city. Right now, we're providing a service that we can't get reimbursed for, so now we can provide that service and get reimbursed. That's what all it comes down to, while still.
Well, and I think that's where I've said, Noel, is we're open to some kind of an arrangement if you guys are open to that. It really comes down to what kind of commitment the city wants to make. Everybody talks revenue. It's easy to talk. We can bring in $250,000. And I heard numbers, heck, I think one of them was up to $900,000 they were given as an estimate. I'm not going to dispute it because I don't know where they got their numbers. That seems like a tremendously high number to me. But nobody talks about the expenses that go with it. Now you guys, and again, I'm not saying this to upset the fire department. I'm not saying this to upset you guys. You guys were looking to cut 3 positions that cost $180,000 to $200,000, I'm guessing.
Yes.
So right there, if you say we start an ambulance, you're not gonna cut anybody. So you already have $180,000 to $200,000 in expenses right off the bat. And that's just for one person. If you do any callbacks, insurance, added insurance costs, added vehicle costs, fuel, there's a lot of billing, I mean, the billing service, or whoever does the billing, it's not just the revenue, it's what's it gonna cost you in the long run to make. Does it cost you $270,000 to make $250,000? Or is it costing you $200,000 to make $250,000? And that's a decision you guys have to make, not us.
Who does the mechanicals on your vehicles? Do you take that out to a private contractor, or you do that in-house?
We do a few things in-house, but a lot of it goes out.
So you have a lot of tires and oil changes and...
City of Oil City is very hard on tires and rotors because of all the hills. This whole community, I mean, we chew through tires and rotors and brakes often. So you have a vehicle out of service for a few hours every now and again. But again, with our fleet, if we have one out of service for a while, we can withstand having a vehicle.
Right.
We have spare ambulances sitting that aren't in use every day.
Unless the hospital gets a lot of patients that can transfer out.
Chief finds out.
If you guys don't mind, I'll finally get throw my 2 cents in here. I've been silent pretty much in this whole thing, but first of all, I want to run an our flag poll first. I think probably over the last 2 months or so, you guys have heard a lot about us, about our fire department. I'm going to stand right there and tell you, most of those things are accurate. And I'm proud of this place. We've come a long ways too. I started here in 1987, and there was 2 guys here, Chief Stack and Frank Riddle, had a vision to create our paramedic service. There was no paramedics prior to 1988 in the county. And along with community ambulance service, we were going to start a paramedic service. We did. And we provide a service here that, I'm not going to say you're not going to find in a big city, but I'll challenge you to find any services that our citizens get anywhere in Northwest Pennsylvania. You show me a place, and I'll believe you, but that's not going to happen.
And I will second his comments.
I agree with you.
And I realize that, that we're basically going for nothing. That's accurate too. We get a little bit of reimbursements. We get some money back on some car wrecks and stuff like that, but it's pennies. Pennies on the dollar, if even that. And I'm going to run their flag up poll too. And I worked at Community Ambulance Service from 1978 to 1985, and they've come a long ways. I worked at Quaker State when I got out of high school, and I went to work at I wanted to go to work at the ambulance service. I became an EMT when I was 19 years old. I want to go to work at the ambulance service. So I have an interview. They're going to hire me. I'm at lunchtime at Quaker State. I'm walking right here at the corner of Center and Elm. Here comes an ambulance down the street, turns right on to Elm Street, down that way somewhere. I look back, and both doors are in the back are flapping wide open. They got the bungee cord to held them shut was dragging on the road behind it. And they were in bad shape back then. And when I worked there, I recall many times that the administration would come to us and say, I don't think we're going to pay this week. We don't have enough money. And all this was prior to third-party billing or insurance billing. So initially, when third-party billing came into account, it was like gold mine. There was money flowing everywhere. Of course, over time, to government regulation or whatever, that all gets cut. So I guess in the big picture of this whole thing, I think and I've said this to most people here, starting our own ambulance service would not be my choice. If you guys told me, hey, we're going to do that, let's do that. I think when Mark Hicks made his presentation up here, I think some of the start costs were a little underestimated. I think maybe some of the revenues were a little overestimated. But there's still a number there. And quite honestly, nobody's going to make money doing this. The whole ambulance service thing is designed to offset some costs. We're not going to bankroll the city by any means by doing this. I think it's more of a somewhat of a revenue stream. You're not going to make a bunch of money doing it, but you're going to save some costs in the big picture on reimbursements. I mean, John will tell you all about reimbursements, how they don't pay, but they do pay. I mean, you get money off them, there's no doubt. But in my opinion, and you guys asked John about the call volume thing, theirs versus ours. I think it's more like 10 to 15%. If their total calls versus ours, it's about, we want about 10 to 15% of their total call volume. I just know that based on, hearing on the scanner, like 911 will give their trip number. I know how many calls we've had, so I can say, okay, they've had 20,000 calls and we had 2,000. So I know it's about 10%. Me here to say. But I don't think, I agree with Mark Troyer that I think maybe stepping this thing is cost prohibitive, I guess. I don't know how better to put that. It's a lot of money to dump into something that you're not sure is going to work. And people will disagree with what I'm going to say. I truly believe that we can work something out with community ambulance service. I've had calls now from Corn Planter wanting to some digital gun, ambulance-wise. And it's like, why are we all sudden the focus? And with those guys, we're the focus to them. But John's here today saying that they're willing to come up with some kind of a merger to make this happen. And John's right. There's a lot of entities in play here, and at the end of the day, we all have to agree that this is going to happen. If you get one or two entities that aren't going to step up and say this is okay, the whole thing's going to fly. It's all negative about the whole thing. You've got to have a semi-positive attitude to accomplish this. Not everybody's going to be happy, obviously. And there's some ways around this. I got ideas I talked to John about when we met about a cooperative agreement where they staff or put an ambulance in our station with one staff person, we staff the other person. Granted, they got a bigger investment at that point. They're putting I'll just throw a $100,000 ambulance in there, and it's probably higher than that. I'll just throw that number out to make it an easy number. You got a $100,000 ambulance in there, plus they're paying another person. We're putting one person in there that we're paying for. It's still a little lopsided. So, other things you need to look at would be like us paying for the fuel, some maintenance on the vehicle, things like that. Now, granted, they got their billing service in place. You're not going to hire a billing service. And that's another cost that, we've all talked about, what that costs. I know on average, a billing service charges you about somewhere between 7 and 10% of your revenue. And that's actual revenue. They don't charge you for the write-offs. So if you made, we always use $1,000, everybody here uses $1,000 tonight as an example. If you have $1,000, they're going to take 100 of it, or 90 or 80, whatever the percentage might be. So there's that's another positive, I think, to this merger, that they already have that in place.
I think cooperative agreements are the future for a lot of things.
What comes into play here, maybe John doesn't like it, but I really think that unit needs more dedicated, because if we don't dedicate a unit to here, to our town, they won't be the same service that people are getting. They won't get the same service, because if that unit's called out somewhere. Now, granted, if it's the big plane crash or a bus wreck or something, that's a whole different ballgame. We got to move all your assets to one area. That's a whole different story. But day in, day out, the people of our community are used to and expect a certain level of service. And at this point, I think, for the most part, they get it from us. And so, when I talked to John, I said, this unit's got to be a pretty much dedicated unit here, and not to be, pulled out because you have a call in Franklin, you can't, their units are all tied up. Not that couldn't go, but I just think that we'd be robbing ourselves if that was the case. Now, we always talk about, you guys heard, people are going to die and all this kind of stuff. All I can tell you is that over a year's time, between 100 and 120 times, we're going to have back-to-back calls. We're within 15 minutes of each other. Now, am I going to tell you somebody's going to die? No, I'm not going to tell you that. What I'm going to tell you is that somebody's not going to get served. I have no idea what that call is going to be, whether it's the earache or the cardiac arrest on the floor. If I could tell you that, I probably wouldn't be standing here. I'd be a mind reader somewhere, and I'd be buying lottery tickets tonight to fund this whole thing. But I really think that some kind of a cooperative agreement with community animals, and maybe you can bring Corn Planter into the mix. This is a whole new thing. I was at a meeting in Harrisburg yesterday, and I spoke with Dick Gibbons, who's the head of EMS for the entire state. He's the EMS director for the Commonwealth through the Department of Health. I asked him if he knew of any other communities or services that did something similar to this. And he didn't know any off the top of his head, but he was going to call I can't remember, 7 or 9 EMS councils in the Commonwealth. He was going to call around to their executive directors and find out if something has gone on. Because I'm the type of guy that's like, let's not reinvent the wheel here. Let's see what somebody else did. Let's see what the problems they had were, so we don't fall into that pitfall and have that same problem they did. But at this point, I'm not sure that it's happened. We may be the leader here in this type of thing. But like we talked before, when on the fire issue, and quite honestly, in my opinion, our job here is the fire department. And the EMS side is something we do. We do a lot, and we do it good. But when it comes down to the end of the day, our job is fire protection here. And by taking too many people out of the fire protection, this gets back to what we have just a issue with the collective bargaining agreement and the staffing. If you take less than 4 people a day on duty, and we have this ambulance thing, you're rolling dice here more than we do now. We roll dice now. I mean, every day, if we go on a med call right now, and like these guys said, we're dedicated to that call. We can't leave. We might leave one person there, but and that other person's leaving. You'd be in charge of abandonment of the patient if you left the patient by himself. So we roll that dice pretty regularly. I mean, every day that we don't get caught. And we don't. I guess we're very fortunate, and we try to staff it the best that we can to keep that from happening. We move people around throughout the year. Sometimes Rescue 7's on Central Avenue. Sometimes in the wintertime it's over here. Summertime it's up at Station 3. We're banking that on the fact that we're going to have a river call, and if Rescue 7's on call, there's nobody there to take the boat. So we're banking on moving those guys over there that aren't out as often during the summer. So this whole thing is a logistics game, trying to put the right people in the right place at the right time. And community gets bashed a lot for not being here, taking 20 minutes or half an hour. And sometimes is that true? Sure. I'm an advocate of them, but that's true. And it's not always their fault. I always tell people that you can't be in the same place or the right time all the time. They're a pretty busy service. They have staffing problems like everyone else. Like John alluded to, trying to call people into work. And we all know what the workforce is like sometimes nowadays. That you got people that want to pick their own time, their own place, and maybe don't want to come to work. And I know that they run into that on a regular basis, where they try to call people in. It might be 2 o'clock in the morning at Pittsburgh, and you're sound asleep in bed, and you're like, I'm not getting out of bed for this. And so they have to send one of their main crews. Whether it's one in town here or one in Seneca, they're down a unit. And that's usually when things happen. They'll get, I'll say, caught with their pants down, whatever you want to call it. But in our case, they rely on us to. Well, they know that they're going to get that level of service here in town. The same level of service they provide, minus the transport part. So they take that chance. And I think working this thing out together, first of all, we don't have the upfront costs to deal with. Secondly, if it doesn't work, we're not out a whole lot here. But I really think we can make this work. And like Ron said, it's not going to happen by January 1. That's not going to happen. There's a lot of issues that would need to be worked out in this whole thing. But and just asking me, like I said, first thing I said was, I'm not really in favor of it. If you tell me to do that, that's what we're going to do, and we'll do a good job at it. But I think to take baby steps first here. Let's see if we can work something out with them that we're staff. And there's always a question like, who's going to be in charge, and all that kind of stuff. That's things that we have to sit down and work out. And quite honestly, I think we should be in charge. I really do think that. I'm sorry, John, but I really think that.
I think you've made that very aware to me.
We got other responsibilities other than the EMS side. So if Captain Alcorn's on, he's the only medic that day, and something else happens at the same time, I would expect him to make that decision is, you know, what we're gonna do here, and not the paramedic or the EMTs and the ambulance is not gonna make that decision. If we're, you know, I care about our city, I guess what it boils down to, and if we can't work that part out, then that's another stumbling block that we're gonna have to deal with. But, you know, unless you guys have any other questions for me, I think I've probably said enough here. Y'all want to get going home, and you know, I sit back there, you know, listening to all this, and like, I gotta get up and say something. Some people like it, some people aren't gonna like it, but you know, I guess that's my job to tell you what I think, and I think what's best for our department.
Thank you.
I will say thanks, because from our perspective, we're always the least informed people. Like, you know, I'm not an ambulance guy, I'm not a fireman, I'm not a fire personnel, I don't know how those work. I'm a pain director.
Well, back to the call volume, if we covered every call that was in this county that we were dispatched to, we probably would be overstaffed and be in financial straits. You know, I don't know of any service out there that are covering 100%, because if you are, you're probably mismanaging something. And I can tell you our missed call rate here is about 1.8%. And that's very good, especially in a rural area.
When you average less than 1 call an hour in the county, you don't staff, you can't staff for the times when you have 5 calls at once. I don't care who you are, and that happens. I mean, there's days where you have 4 or 5 ambulances staffed, and you have 6 calls within an hour. And when you're averaging less than 1 an hour, that just throws out any statistics that you can have on it.
We'll let them all over, but I appreciate you coming.
Okay, thanks.
If anybody has any questions you think of later, you're more than welcome to call me at the office. I'll try to answer. I will try to fact check a couple of the things that I told you tonight just to make sure.
Right. Well, thank you. You're both coming.
Yes, thanks.
Both. Appreciate you coming out.
Thank you for inviting.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
I guess since we kind of brought this whole thing into play, you know, I understand you guys might be standing here right now thinking this is, you know, you're coming in here and you're really getting bashed. We're not saying that we don't have a great working relationship and things don't work great the way they are. What we walked into mid-year this year, we walked into a negotiation where it was brought up that there's a funding issue in the city, you're gonna lose a fire station and you're gonna lose 3 firefighters. For us, that's a big deal. It affects the safety of everybody that lives in this city, everybody that commutes in the city, everybody that works in the city. It affects our safety as responding to these incidents and losing that staffing. And it affects our response times to the north side. And as it was brought up about those units being tied up on other calls already, not being able to respond, at the level we're staffed now, we have a reserve of off-duty firefighters that if we do get an incident, a significant incident in that time, we can bring those off-duty guys back to work, which happens very quickly because they all live here. So as we start losing staffing, that ability goes away. We're not getting the help from the outside areas that we used to. We were tasked with finding some real revenue sources. Like a couple $1,000s ain't gonna help us here. We need like some 6-digit figures to bring back in here if you guys wanna keep some staffing. Obviously, you know, at that level, EMS was the one thing we had to look at. We're sitting here with a turnkey operation. You guys brought it up the best. We're going and providing that service, but we're not able to get reimbursed for it. We can't bill because one EMS agency can bill. So we go provide that, you know, initial contact, however long it is, 5 minutes, 20 minutes, it doesn't matter. We're providing that initial contact. You know, we're, you know, improving patients, we're stabilizing patients, or, you know, doing a weekend till you get there to transport. The only thing we're missing is the ambulance. You know, we got the personnel, we got certifications, we got the equipment. We throw an ambulance in the station, you know, our rally is Rescue 7 needs replaced anyway. There's your first ambulance. It's already an expense. It's gonna have to happen within the next year or two maybe. So, you know, we're not trying to throw you guys under the bus. We had to come up with, you know, we're looking at bottom numbers. You know, we were fairly conservative, as conservative as we could be, you know, $250,000 a year. Those are conservative numbers of what we can bring
They're
in.
not too conservative, I can tell you that. They're not overly conservative.
That was, we went through several different billing agencies. We were conservative on what we figured were gonna be insurances, what was gonna be Medicaid, Medicare, self-pays, all that stuff. But that's what we can figure out right now. But anyways, it puts us into the numbers where, the city's coming to us asking, we need some money. And we're not here to bash you guys. We have a great system. We would be more than happy to keep the system as it is right now. And it was brought up, is there a way, those stipends that we receive for the services we already provide are probably approaching a decade old.
I said there for probably 15 years.
At this point,
We set that system up.
decade and a half.
13,
So, those are numbers that, that was brought up, we can look at, we're more than receptive to that.
Do you know of any other services that give a fire department a stipend?
I don't know. I don't know of any ALS fire departments around, to be honest with you. That they're either already running the ambulance or they don't provide this service. I could look at, I could call the PPFFA guys, the union guys, but Chief, what'd you say? There's only maybe a handful of ALS QRS.
17 in the whole state.
17 in the whole state. So that's something we could look at and see.
I was just curious because I'm not aware of.
Okay, and that's something I can actually have that kind of put out to at least the Union Fire Department statewide and see what people do bring in, and I'll try to get that done tomorrow. I'll send an email.
When you said all the firemen live here, do they all live here? Because I thought some lived
Within 10
outside.
miles.
Okay.
Within 10 miles. A majority still live in the city. A lot of the ones that live outside live just outside. There's only maybe like 2 that live close to that 10 mile, 2 or 3 that live close to that 10 mile radius. And as far as full timers, there's only maybe 2 that live close to that 10 miles, but still, we got one that lives in Franklin. He's going to be here in 10 minutes. But the ones that are living in town, sometimes they're getting there within 5 minutes of those initial units showing up. But if we do get that structure fire, and even whether we're already out on a med call or not, we really rely on those 10 or so off-duty people coming in. That first 10, 15, 20 minutes, that's where we're pretty well shot, that first arriving crew. We got to come out, we got to get air, we need to rehab, things like that. And that's when them other guys are getting there, they're dressed, ready to go, and they're going in there. Without that wave coming in, now there's a gap where we're coming out to at least get more air, and we have nobody to do that.
Well, how does Franklin do it?
They rely a lot more on outside services.
I don't know, is there a law in the fire service that you have to have so many people there?
There's a standard.
There's a standard, 2 in, 2 out,
standard.
but you can also see a difference in,
Look at, if you want to save basements, we can do that.
Well, I didn't know if there was some
me-
sort of governing law that says you have to have this or that. I don't know.
And we could get you numbers on that. In the last 2 or 3 years of actual working structure, Fire Chief, what do you think we've actually not saved? The houses weren't repaired, maybe 2, 3, out of maybe what, 20, 40 fires?
It all depends on how soon the fire's found.
Yeah. Usually the ones, if they're not rebuilding the house and keeping it on the tax rolls, it was already a vacant that was on the raising list to begin with, or it was, maybe reported in the middle of the night, wasn't found until PD drove by and saw it.
Well, you said there's a standard, so there's a standard in the industry.
NFPA 1710.
And what it says is you need to have approximately a residential dwelling, you need to have 15 firefighters on scene within, I believe it's 10 minutes, which at our staffing now, we're pretty much meeting that. So our first wave goes out, it's a minimum of 4. We get the off-duties coming. As soon as we realize it's a working involved fire, we get our off-duties, our second alarm recalled and coming back, and that gives us that 15 most of the time in that 10-minute time frame. On commercial structures, a lot of times, 1710 says you need about 40. We're not going to touch that, even with calling mutual aid in, but on our bread and butter is our residential working fires. We're meeting that we're just meeting that right now. ISO has a little bit different regulation. If you look at the ISO ratings standards, they say we should have 15 on duty right now to meet their maximum requirement.
On duty?
Yes. Yeah. And that's just for fires. That's not counting around EMS responses or anything else. That's just for fire protection. And in the city of Oil City, they use our demographics, our city size.
I mean, a decade ago during the early intervention, the early intervention study said the city needed more firemen.
But I wanted to kind of come up here and offer that. We're not saying that the system doesn't work the way it is. We were put in a position where we had to come up with some options for our salvation. So we just kind of put out there what we had to put out there, and this is kind of where we are. We're willing to sit down and work. We were kind of, put in there, come up with some ideas, and that's what we've been doing. And so we didn't want you to feel like you were up here, even though maybe you were, up here, taking the brunt of it. But we got to throw some options out there too. We're willing to sit down and work with, figure something out.
As John said, we certainly understand the position you're in, and nobody wants to lose a job. There's no doubt about that. So anyway, that's mine, unless you guys have something else for me, or you guys.
No, we have other business to attend to, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All you have for us?
We're going to go into executive session.
That's all you have for us?
Yes.
Yep.
What's that?
Thanks again.
Thank you for coming.
Leave a few cards here to do the.
Okay. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Want to thank you.
Well, I don't know if you remember these names. They're all across a few years ago. I didn't have that.
I live up on the corner of the gate.
But I made time.
Appreciate you guys.